rolling. So we are going to start off today. Oops, actually I do have to set up my scenes over here. We're going to start off today with a little bit of a survey. I'm here and here. That should set up both my scenes. Yeah. I don't know why my taskbar is visible. I hate that kind of, but I'll figure it out later. And wow. Oh no, this is my fault. I'm projecting the wrong scene. You have to excuse me. It's been 3 months since I've done a lecture on campus, and this room is a little bit weird. This room has three different service calls in, so things are not exactly working up stuff. All right, there you go. Get on in there. While you guys are doing that, let me get rid of this taskbar because I hate it. Taskbar behaviors, auto hide, right? Automatic is already turned on. Automatically hide taskbar is already turned on, so you're just being dumb. There it goes. All right. And change Slido too. All right, so what degree program are you guys in? We service about 7 question mark degree programs and concentrations. Generally, this is going to lean heavily game dev. Usually about half the people in the class are going to be game dev students. And then maybe like a third to a quarter will be computer science and a spattering of other things. We are strongly skewing game dev today, though. This is good information. One of the, I don't want to say complaints, but one of the more consistent criticisms is that sometimes the class skews a little heavy game development because I guess some people just don't enjoy whimsy in their life, and they're like, there's too many games you talk about. It's like, sure, I guess we could always use more examples, but doesn't look like that's going to be a problem here today. All right, next up. How much programming experience do you have? Now this, the class is designed for you guys to not have any programming experience. Some of you will not feel that way. It is what it is. However, this is a class that is designed from the ground up. Typically, I usually see about half the students in this class with no programming experience at all, and the rest with a little bit of a spattering. If you do not have any programming experience, don't worry about it too much. Just understand that some of these things will likely take you longer. Very few people are just like wired to handle the kind of programming stuff you got to do, and there's a lot of stuff that we need to cover in order to get you up to stuff. With current standards. If you have done any kind of programming at all before, this should be fairly elementary, though, you know, everybody learns differently, everybody has things that they understand better. All right, so a little bit, yeah, so about what I expected. Honestly, more programming experience than I had expected, typically, but that's good, that's not a bad thing. All right, so let's get into some slides. We'll see how many of these slides I actually want to use today. There's a lot of policy stuff we need to discuss, so that's all going to be in slides, though. We already did these 2 surveys. We can move on from that. A little bit about me. If, for whatever reason, you have taken this class previously, you probably have not seen me. Like I said, I haven't been around for 2 months now, just due to scheduling. But I am Doug. I am the primary course director of the course. Which means I'm the one in charge. So I am the guy who writes everything. I am the guy who determines what the curriculum is, besides the fact that accreditation also does that. So if you have a problem with the class, it's probably me you're upset about, not anybody else. If you have a problem with your grades, though, that ain't me. So if you guys are in an online section, you guys will have a instructor that is associated with your section, whether that be Carl, Maxwell, Ullman. I haven't checked to see exactly who everybody is online. Those instructors will be responsible for your grades, your due dates, and things like that. You can still reach out to me for assistance, assuming that there's a way to do that, right? Because not everybody on FSO can message me, but we have Discord as well too. But if you do have any specific questions about like grades and things like that, you're going to want to make sure that you are reaching out to the instructor that is specific to your class. My camera is being weird. Just need real quick if I can figure that out. If I can't, I'm just going to say no worries. Something somewhere has already activated my camera because my camera is activated and I cannot see it. Let's see a video broadcast. Did you do it? No. I'll figure it out later. We will not have a camera for now. You guys are all just gonna have to trust that I'm actually here. Campus students will vouch for me, probably, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so I have been at Fullsail since 2011. I'm rounding out my 15th year at Fullsail. I had my bachelor's in computer animation from Fullsail and eventually came back and did my master's in instructional design and technology, which is mostly just adult education. Teaching adult education online for the most part. I previously worked as a web developer. I still work as a web developer, just not nearly as much as I used to. I've also done a spattering of other jobs, mostly online content creation and stream related, right? So, for instance, I used to work for I used to help run a local music festival, and I was in charge of their online streaming and stuff like that, as well as their website and their online presence. So that's where the majority of my experience comes from. I've taught a lot of classes here. I primarily teach in the Android degree program. So if you are a mobile student or you're interested in mobile development, that's my other primary class. I've taught that class for quite a while. I teach Android interface design, but I've taught many of the courses in the mobile degree program as well. I've taught program 1 specifically for about 3 years now. Alrighty, so let's set up some expectations for the course. So this is a fairly accurate course at a glance. It's slightly altered since then, but we have a few key points here. Yeah, I think the grade weights are a little different now, but a few key points here. Number 1, this is gonna say C#. We're not learning C#. We're learning C++. But most of the things in this class are intentionally language agnostic. So while we will be officially learning C++ on paper, many of the things that I teach you, I kind of obscure a lot of the C++ specific stuff because C++ can get a little verbose for beginner programmers. So what we're looking at here is all this stuff in green. These guys here, these are your weekly research assignments. Your guys' research assignments will more or less correlate with the lectures that we have here. So if you guys are on campus, the research assignments are just going to be like chunked up, kind of bite-sized versions of what I discuss here. If you guys are online and you guys are not attending lectures, then you guys won't even hear this, but the videos there are your primary resource, and you guys can watch the recording of these lectures as like a secondary, more detailed thing. Generally speaking, Jackson, we have about straight up videos. Each one of these assignments has 2 to 3 videos that are less than 6 minutes long. So we talk about 15 minutes per research assignment, plus about 1/2 hour long demonstration. So 45 minutes per research assignment. So maybe like 3 or 4 hours per week of those videos, in addition to the 3-ish hour lectures I do here with breaks. That said, this is a big one. You guys are going to probably expect to do about 20 to 40 hours of work a week, depending on your programming experience. Nobody wants to hear that, I know, but you guys went to a full-time school with an accelerated program, and this is the reality of the situation. For you guys online, just so you guys have a idea of how the class is structured, we have a online component and we have an on-campus component, right? Campus students, there's about 15 of them in this room right now. They are required to be here 8 hours a day, 3 days a week. So we do 4 hours worth of lecture. Following the lecture, they go to a 4-hour lab block where they work on the associated labs that we discussed during the class, right? The online sections are basically the same. There's no difference from the online and the on-campus section. You guys have access to all of the same resources. You guys have access to the lectures. You guys have access to the lab instructors, and you guys have scheduled open labs that are available online that parallel kind of what we do here on campus for our labs. The only difference is you don't have to be here, right? So generally speaking, and this is just me throwing out some statistics, campus students generally have a much higher success rate than online students because campus students show up. The number one reason to fail PG1, I had to do a report at the end of every month. The number one reason that people fail PG1 is did not participate. About 50% of the students that fail this course did not participate. About half of the other remaining half, so about 25% of the students that fail PG1 are failing because they cheated. So that gives you a pretty good gauge here, right? If you are here right now and you are active and you are engaged and paying attention and asking questions, you are already on a very good start, right? Any questions about that so far? Good. I'm not saying this to try to scare you guys. I'm going to say that a lot. I'm going to say I'm not trying to scare you guys. I just want people to be adequately prepared because I understand that before this class, you guys took 4 gen ed classes that were designed to be completed on an iPad. We are not there anymore. You guys are now. If we are looking at this if we're thinking about this in the sense of a traditional college, we are an accelerated program. You guys finish your degree program in about 22 months, right? Which means you're at about month 5 now. So you're rounding out the end of your first year of college. Okay, that's where you are. So just so you know. Yeah, Jackson, you are not required to be here, and this lecture is recorded. So about 2 to 3 hours after this lecture ends, like 7, 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern Standard Time, this will be available online. So you can be here for as long as you need, get your questions answered, and if you need to pick up where you left off, you can just watch the recording in the meeting time. All right, so 3 to 4 research assignments per week. These will coincide with the lecture we do here. You also have, whoops, what? My pen ain't working right now. We'll also have 3 to 4, or 2 to 3 lab assignments per week. So for you guys here on campus, whenever we finish the lecture, you'll go to lab and do the lab. Generally speaking, the labs are not designed to take you 4 hours. You probably will finish it before that. However, again, if you haven't had programming experience and stuff like that, it may take you longer. We have 2 practicals in this class. So these are basically your midterm and your final. These are project-based assignments that are gonna require you to synthesize everything you've learned so far. So you'll take those two, all the knowledge of everything you've learned so far, apply it to a project, and then those will be the majority of the grade in your class. In fact, this says we have a midterm quiz, but we do not have a midterm quiz. So actually, these are the practicals. Those don't exist anymore. These are the practicals. So don't ignore that. So this is 15% of your grade. This is 20% of your grade. This is 10% of your grade, right? So you need a 59.5 to pass this class, right? 59.5%. That'll round up to a 60. If we look at this, this is 20, 35, 40, and then you have this for installing the software and doing Hello World pretty much.
I want you guys to see something. Professionalism is 10% of the grade. Right? You need 10% professionalism to pass. You need 15% of synthesis and 20% practical to be able to get a 59% to pass. And then You heard him say that half of the people that fail didn't participate. 25% of what's left cheated, right? So when I received my, I made sure that you guys could hear. I'm assuming you can. Can you hear? I made sure that you guys could hear. I have my computer muted. Um, One second. So assuming that this information is still available, assuming. So when you look at my previous grade, 28%, and then you look at my professionalism grade of 0, right? I got a 0 in professionalism. And you need 10% of your grade for professionalism is what is required for you to pass, right? And then I'm working full time. I'm working full fucking time, 40 hours a week. And it's 12:30 in the morning and I'm sitting here and you heard he said like it's accelerated. So you're supposed to be like doing like a year's worth of college in a short amount of time. So I'm sitting here doing the actual work and trying to keep up with the course pace. But instead of them being instructors and teachers and actually teaching, they're just like, oh, well, let's just assume that he's not doing anything online because we don't see him. He's not present. He's not talking. He's not social. I'm tired of trying to spend my life engaging with people that automatically just assume that I don't care. I'm not interested. I don't want to understand. I don't want to make an effort. I'm tired of dealing with that. I'm just tired of dealing with that. And then I'm using ChatGPT because they don't want to teach. I was there on that campus. You can look at the past videos and see me on the campus, sitting there doing work in isolation by myself alone, doing work because no one cares, no one's interested. I don't have a problem with people not caring. I have a problem with people not being interested. I get it. No one fucking cares. It doesn't matter. But to do the work and put the effort in and then to have to be treated this way it's counterproductive. It's counter fucking productive. It doesn't make any sense for me to receive 200s. It doesn't make any sense to receive 200s. Where is it? Right here. 200s, 100, and then 0. And it works. It's not like it doesn't fucking work. There was no conversation or communication. It was just 200s and 0, which brings the grade for that section to a 38.8. And then it's like, oh, well, you just failed. You just failed. And then the first section is the same thing. 100, and then 100, 80, and a 60. And then it's like, it gives me a 78. And then they just drop. And then it's a rank. I'm not trying to rank. I'm trying to do my homework. So I've already explained all this stuff in past videos. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna watch this 2.5 hour video, and then I'm gonna try to get the first 1/3 of this week's assignments complete, so that the I can get my homework turned in. I also have there's a lot of other stuff I have to get done too, and I only have 4 hours. It's 12:30 a.m. and I have to leave out for work at 5 a.m. And the only thing I did, I got home at 2 p.m. So from 2 p.m. to 12 a.m. I slept 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 10 hours. But yesterday night, I did the same thing. So when am I supposed to sleep? Yesterday I got up, I sat at the computer to do my assignments. This video I should be watching that I'm watching now. I was supposed to watch it yesterday. It's scheduled for me to watch yesterday. It didn't even post yesterday. So they gave me a schedule and then I'm already outside of the schedule that they gave me. Because this video was supposed to have posted yesterday. So
So that's one. 45% of your grade. So if you got like a 25% on everything else, you're fine. I say that because I don't want you guys to stress too much about absorbing everything in the class. If you can absorb every single thing in the class, that's great, wonderful, perfect. However, if you get a 70 or 80 or whatever in the class, you will be fine. You probably have a 4.0, well, honestly, probably, but many of you may have a 4.0 up until this point. Don't stress about not having a 4.0. If you were to graduate from your computer science degree program with a 4.0, that would be an incredible feat, but not something anybody's going to expect of you. Cool. No problem. All right. So the majority of your grades is going to be in those practicals. You're going to have two to three labs per week, and we will kind of try to balance that around so you guys don't have like a bunch of things to work on. All the assignments say they're due on Sunday here. They're not. They're now due on Monday. So you guys got a little bit of extra time. That's mostly because we do not have office hours on the weekend, really. Some people have office hours on Saturday, the majority of us do not, and nobody has office hours on Sunday. That means if you're looking for an assistance on an assignment, please let us know, preferably Friday afternoon, not Friday evening, or Monday, you know. Hold on, this is good. This is a good note here. Brandon has left me an excellent note. And that is, do not use AI. Don't do that thing. We'll have a bigger discussion on AI later on, Brandon, but I don't hold it against anybody. Don't worry. We're gonna skip all this. Mostly, you guys are gonna want to make sure that you're paying attention to the getting started with PG1 assignment here. Well, we do have a technology program play work policy. I'll cover it later. Y'all sources, knowledge check, blah, blah, blah. But getting started with PG1 is going to more or less get you started at PG1. The rest of the stuff is just administrative stuff that I need to cover. So there's a lot of like, here's a lay work policy, here's how to join the open lab, blah, 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 blah. But getting started with PG1 is where you're gonna find the links to download your software and the first bit of instructions on how to create and upload your assignments. That is going to be a thing that is going to come up often. Just gonna throw that out there. Just a show of hands. Okay, this is not me calling anybody out. This is not a thing for me to do that. But this is an earnest question. Does anybody here need additional help with zipping up a folder? Everybody good with that? Let me know now. That's okay. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you need help. Cool. Alright. Because we can spend some additional time on that, but if we don't need to, I won't, pass it up. Alright, so each week we'll have a weekly overview. This weekly overview will give you a time expectation.
I want to say something about education. My 2 cents about self-improvement through self-education. Every month he does this as a human being. Every month he has to sit in class and he has to repeat the same information over and over again as an adult human male, right? And it's monotonous and it's exhausting and it's tedious, right? Every month a new person sits in his classroom that has zero experience doing this type of work. The question he asks about zipping files is super critical to being able to pass the class. It's super critical. You have to put the information, you have to package the files in a certain way for programming and upload them a certain way for them to execute, right? So up until this point in Fullsail school, we have actually learned how to zip files and upload them to the course, right? But we have not had the experience yet to zip files for programming and upload them. And he skipped an important part of the lecture today because he's already done it 1,000 times. He's probably been in Fullsail for a few years, so he's probably have done that step thousands of times. So him like it's not a big deal if you can't do it. I understand. I don't really feel like doing it right now, so I'm not going to today. It's your job. Do your job. Like it's not hard for you to go through the process real quick to just show people how to do it. Don't even ask people if they. Why are you asking us ignorant people if we know how to do something or don't? Just go through all the steps to show everything, and then you don't have people like Paul Emerson calling the facility trying to understand why you are not explaining everything in a way that makes it easy for me to pass the class. Because me passing the class is what's important, not you proving that people are cheating or proving that people don't want to actually do the work. Your job isn't to prove that half of us didn't show up and 25% of us are using AI to cheat. That's not your job. Your job is to teach.
For the week, a recommended cadence of how we are going to talk about things and how I think that you guys should continue working on them, as well as some other things like a series of questions that you should be asking yourself in order to complete the assignments, like do I know how to write to the console, things like that. Those are going to be your primary focus in order to help you be successful throughout the week. There's also things like crossword puzzles and stuff to help you learn some of the vocab. There's going to be a lot of vocabulary in this class. I'll tell you guys that right now. The reason being is because you guys are learning a new skill. Anecdotally, I had to take a audio class as part of my master's because part of online instruction is going to be an important audio component. And for anybody who's never seen or done any research into doing any kind of streaming or anything at all, the most important part about anything you do is your audio. It doesn't matter if your video is terrible, if your audio is bad, you've lost everybody. If you can kind of think of some of the videos you've seen in the past, you can kind of figure that out, right? But as a result of that class, the first thing we did is we had a ton of vocab. Now I have a background in audio, so I expected I would be fine, but I got caught off guard. But things like a digital signal, an analog signal, a note, a clef, a measure, like all these words that we may recognize outside the context of that thing, right? We don't actually understand when we get into the context of the thing. So the first part of learning any new skill is learning the language of the skill, learning how to speak the skill. This is especially important for programming because there's a lot of technical writing involved. So when you guys run into an error and you see like index out of bounds, right? Something like that. Then you're going to, not understand what an index is and not understand what bounds are and things like that. Once you'll get a feel for that vernacular, that vocabulary, then you'll have a better idea of how to handle that. Oh no, Tyrese, we're doing a 15-hour lecture today, man. I'm ready to go. I've had 3 coffees and I'm running. No, it says there's a 15-hour lecture online. That is not accurate. That is not how I roll. I'm sorry. Sorry to disappoint you if anybody was hoping for that. This lecture will end at about roughly 4:30. Alright, so there's your research assignments, and then you'll go into your lab assignments. We moved the weekly challenges recently to the end of the week. These weekly challenges are going to be, additional kind of real world challenges that you guys can work on to improve your skills. The best thing you can do, a lot of people are like, what can I do to learn programming better? Like, how can I continue to learn programming? What is the best thing I can do to learn programming? The best thing to do to learn programming is to program. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Doesn't matter what you're doing, right? Doesn't matter if you're doing little challenges. Doesn't matter if you're doing little quizzes and tests, and I'll show you guys some of those later on. But programming itself is very akin to working out, right? So if you're working out all the time, you're going to get stronger and better. If you stop working out for like a month and you come back to it, you're going to have to kind of build up to where you were, right? Programming is the same way, and it happens to everybody regardless of their skill level. So like if I haven't programmed, like for instance, I'm getting back into web development right now after being off of it for a few months. first of all, web development technology moves really fast, so I have to learn new skills right off the bat. But also, I haven't done that language or those languages, because there's several, in a long time. So I have to take a minute to get back into the group, and then once I get into it, I'll be steady again, and then it is what it is. But that's true for everybody. So if you guys would like to keep up this momentum, right, then you just find personal projects in order to help you continue working on programming stuff. And I'm going to give you plenty of options if you can't think of things on your own. And then you have your labs. So you're going to want to do your research, you're going to do labs, and then if you have extra time, you're going to look at those exercises. I have a suggested cadence of how I recommend doing this, and this is what it looks like. Now, this is going to be, you don't need to like memorize this or anything. Like I said, this is going to be I'm going to give you this weekly and those weekly overviews. So if you want to keep on track, have an idea of where you should be, keep a look on that. Zeros are zero. No, Kira, I think I'm saying that right. Kira, but Brilliant is great. I'm not going to tell you guys need to go pay for something in order to be better, but if you guys would like to pay for other services, Brilliant is a great one. And you'll actually see a lot of the YouTubers, because we're going to watch some YouTube videos about the class, and a lot of the YouTubers that I will show will tell you, Kira, that makes sense. So it's exactly what it looks like. I was just overcomplicating it. But yeah, a lot of them will recommend Brilliant as well. Wait, so hold on, just real quick. So this class will have lectures on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, right? I don't think we have any holidays this month, so we're cool. We're gonna have a very straight up even month. Nothing unexpected. So this cadence that you see here is the cadence that I do recommend. So we have Monday. This is where I'm going to do my lecture. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. These are the days where you should be being introduced to the topics, right? Taking your notes, all that stuff. Followed by Tuesday, which is the day that I recommend you guys are continuing to do research and review your notes and maybe do some of the follow-along demonstrations, and then getting into the associated lab. So today we're going to talk about the stuff that's going to be covered on Lab 1. You don't have to get Lab 1 done today. You still need some extra time. But by tomorrow, right, by Tuesday, you want to have Lab 1 mostly down pat, right? You don't have to have it done, but you want to have a solid understanding of how to complete Lab 1. And you want to have opened it and started working on it a little bit. That way, when we come back in on Tuesday, right, when we start introducing new topics on top of that, right, you are refreshed and ready to go and feel comfortable with everything that we've discussed previously, right? That cadence is going to continue, right? So I'm going to talk about a new topic on Tuesday. You want to be done with that lab by Thursday. I'm going to talk about a new concept on Friday. You want to be done with that by Saturday, right? And that way, Sunday, you have either time for break, right? You have time for rest, or, you can work on the exercises. Then Monday, when we come back the next week, we're going to be introducing a new topic, right? So that's generally the cadence that I recommend. What I do not recommend is waiting until Friday night to open all this stuff up, right? Because remember, we have limited support hours during the weekend. So if you are working on those over the weekend, if you spend the majority of your time working on this during the weekend, it's going to be, the time where you have the least amount of help. And you don't want to be here, Monday night trying to get everything done at the last minute. Inevitably, some people will be that way, and it is what it is, right? But as other people in the chat have already expressed, and as I know personally, because I've gone through Fullsails twice, life happens, right? Things happen very, very quickly here, and it's very easy to fall behind. So you do want to make sure you're giving yourself breathing room, right? This was the attendance policy. I don't know what it is. It changed now. We're just gonna skip it. It's in the manual. Blah, 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 blah. Use all the resources. I've already talked about this. Don't give up. Do your best. So This comes with two asterisks, right? Number one, don't give up, do your best to ask questions. Part of programming, you're gonna hear this all the time, and you're not gonna believe me, and then you're gonna hear it again, and then you're not gonna believe me, and then you're gonna run into it, and you're gonna overcome it, and then you're gonna believe me. But part of programming is believing you don't know anything. It is what it is. There's a huge amount of imposter syndrome and frustration and depression when you run into a problem. That's what programming is. But also, our job is problem solving. That is what we are here to do. That is all programming is somebody gives us a problem, we develop a solution. The end, right? There will be a time, maybe not in this class, maybe not in the next class, but there will be a time where you are looking at a problem for hours, maybe days, and you're going to feel like you don't know anything and you're the stupidest person in the world and you should give up on everything because you've absolutely been coasting to this point, but you didn't actually absorb everything and you just want to give up and that's it. And then 20 minutes after that, after you go outside, get some water and maybe have a snack, you're gonna find some small semicolon that you forgot. And you're gonna be like, I am a god. Nobody can stop me. I am the most powerful being in the world. That is the arc way of learning how to program. It is what it is. Anybody who has ever programmed even a little bit in the past will tell you that. But you need to be prepared and remind yourself when those moments come up that you can overcome this, right? Don't let it get you down. Blah, 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 blah. Do your best to turn in assignments on time. Blah, blah, blah. One thing I really want to emphasize with this particular thing is just turn in the assignment. Just turn it in. Do your best. Get whatever you get however much you can get done in the time allotted, and turn it in. If you have to turn it in late, you can turn it in up to 2 days late. I don't recommend doing that because you don't want to fall further behind in the class because things will just snowball, right? Again, you don't need to get 100, so don't try to get 100 necessarily. Just try to get as much done as you can in the time you have. Do the best you can. Try to get your questions answered, and then move on. But move on with the idea that in your own time or whenever, as you get more time, you can go back and do some of those other things. If you have extra time, go back and work on it. You will be doing yourself a better favor if you just get like a 70 on a lab than if you try to get 100 on the lab, don't end up getting 100 on the lab, turn in get a 10-point deduction and still end up getting a 70 and wasting time. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? This is you're going to need your laptop for this entire class. This is a very computer-based class. If you guys are lucky and I have some additional time, I might be able to do audio-only resources. That is like podcast-related stuff because I really like that kind of resource anyway. But I've been trying to get those done for months and I rarely have time for it. All right, so don't just take my word for it. We're going to listen to a very, very, very good YouTuber that I enjoy named Fireship. He's going to tell you some hard truths about learning programming. Most of the stuff I've already said, but he's funnier than me. I mean, I think I'm pretty funny, but he's better. He has a script.
What matters to post-university people? People who pick post want an online education that works on their schedule, so they can get a degree that can...
Advertising your university inside of a university, that's top tier capitalism.
Needs to learn to code. Coding is the new literacy. If you can't code, you'll soon become obsolete. Plus, coding is easy, so you really have no excuse. These are all statements that are not true, but I've been told that fear-based sales tactics will scare you into subscribing to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to share a variety of practical techniques that have helped me learn to code, because learning in and of itself is a skill. And if you want to be a software engineer, you'll need to learn new things all the time. Many moons ago, I didn't know how to code. I wanted to learn because I hated my low-paying, miserable job, and wanted to build some kind of app on the internet that would allow me to break out and start my own business. I figured I wasn't smart enough to code, but you only live once, so I bought a giant book about PHP and MySQL.
So just as an aside, I told you guys I've been doing web development for a very, very, very long time. So my story is very similar to this. I started learning how to do web development in 8th grade. So I don't know, what was I, like 13? And it was hard, man. I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. But I made my GeoCities website. For those of you guys that don't
And
know,
sure enough,
GeoCities
I
is like
wasn't smart enough to code, and those toilets weren't
a
gonna
free like lightweight web host you could use back in the day. So I made my GeoCities website, and then I was like, cool, I suck at do that. I never want to do that again. Until somebody's like, hey, I have this problem that I need solved, because that's what programming is. Do you think you can make a website? And I said, sure. I could maybe do that. And I tried to do it, and it sucked. I hated it, and I was like, this is terrible, and I quit, and I'm never gonna do this again. But I was also like 15, so like, what else am I gonna do with my time, right? We didn't even have the internet really back then. So I tried it again, and I tried it again, and I tried it again, and I eventually suffered my way through it, but I got it. But everybody's journey is similar. So don't think like, again, don't think you're gonna, if you can pick this up right away, that's great, wonderful, perfect. You're a smarter person than I am. It has nothing to do with being smart. It just has problems. Your brain is wired different than mine. But if you do take time, that's how it be.
So I went back to my crappy job and forgot about it. Luckily, a little while later, my family needed a website, so I figured I was at least smart enough to learn HTML. And somehow, a few months later, I figured out how to ship my first website. The important thing to recognize when learning to code is that hard work is more valuable than talent. Talent is great if you have it, and there are 10x developers out there where things just click on a much higher level. But programming is a skill very similar to playing a musical instrument or juggling. For most people, you totally suck at first, then you feel like a genius when you code your first program, then you realize you totally suck again, and this pattern goes on and on forever in an infinite loop. Learning is supposed to be painful. In fact, I believe that you need pain to grow. When learning guitar, you need to put your fingertips through a lot of pain before you build calluses. In programming, you'll have to bang your head against the keyboard a bunch of times until you figure out how to make these error messages go away. So if you don't have talent, be prepared to embrace the hard work. Now, as you learn, you might be wondering, which programming language should I start with? The truth is that it doesn't matter as long as you get really good at one of them. The thing about programming is that there's so much to learn, you are never going to retain it all. I used to be a really good Ruby programmer, but at this point, I've forgotten almost everything about it. And that's no big deal, because memorizing syntax doesn't really matter. The thing you really want to learn and retain are programming patterns. Essentially, everything you do in programming is problem solving.
So what he means by that, and I'm going to show you guys some examples on a few slides, is what we do in programming is not necessarily what the code looks like, but the process of what we're doing to solve a problem. Like, for example, some things you're going to look at them and there's going to be a very clear structure that you can use. Like, I know that I should probably use some type of loop to iterate through this data and then do something with it, right? The way that we do that, the way that we loop, the way that we iterate through the data, that's going to change depending on the language. But the solution, the actual solution to the problem, iterating through the data and doing something with it, that's never going to change, right? So you have to learn minimal, fundamental, stuff about the language in order to do the same thing, but the process is still the same, right? So that's why the important part about programming is the problem solving part. Just so you guys have an idea, you guys are learning, like I said, you guys are learning a facsimile of C++ in this class. You will learn C++ in PG2, and you will continue to learn C++ related things throughout most of your degree program, right? If you are a computer science student, which there's a handful of you, not necessarily a game dev student, but a computer science student, you will end up working in mobile. So you're gonna end up doing Java or Kotlin or Swift in your midterm. If you are a game dev student, you will probably end up doing some type of C# at some time in the future, right? In my career, I have learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Ruby on Rails, SQL, PHP, Kotlin, Swift, Java, and now I'm currently doing TypeScript and I forget the other language. I don't even remember the other language I'm using. And I've learned, and in between that, I've learned a million different frameworks, right? So just because you are sitting here learning C++ today does not mean you will be a C++ developer. You will be a developer, period.
The idea is to create a repertoire of tools in your brain that you can then use to solve virtually any problem in any language. For example, if you need to loop over something, but you've never used Perl before, you still understand the trade-offs between a for loop, while loop, and recursion. This is the exact reason that when you go to a technical interview, they usually don't care which language you use. They just want to want to see that you know how to solve problems. And in some cases, they may only have you write pseudocode on a whiteboard to analyze your problem-solving skills. So in learning, I would recommend trying out a few different languages and learn the one that feels most natural to you. For most people, I think Python is ideal because it has a minimal syntax, is extremely popular, and is also just a very useful language to know in general. But JavaScript, Go, Kotlin, and Swift are also good languages to start with. But again, it's about becoming a problem solver, not about memorizing syntax. And that begs the question, how do I become a good problem solver? The answer is go solve a bunch of problems. Turn off YouTube and go write some code. Will you ever learn to play guitar by watching other people on YouTube play guitar? The answer is no. You also need to be playing the guitar along with them. Both tutorials are great, sign up for Fireship Pro, but they're utterly useless if you're not coding along with them. In my tutorials, I try to set you up with something cool to build so you can go have fun and fail on your own. You can build things based on tutorials, you can try to build your own stuff, you can do coding challenges, participate in hackathons, and all kinds of other stuff. If you're serious, you should be coding at least a couple hours every day. There's a reason they require pilots to have a certain number of flying hours. Experience matters more than anything else. And luckily for you, to get time in the saddle, all you have to do is sit on your ass in front of your computer screen and hit the keyboard until something cool happens. Speaking of which, sitting
Alright, asterisk, big fat asterisk. He's a funny guy. Like I said, he's way funnier than I am. He has a script. It's not fair, okay? I'd like to see him do improv. Anyway, he is going to have a huge section here, which is critically important. It's one of the 5 big sections he has, and it's going to be hilarious, and you're going to think it's a joke. It's not a joke. Everything he says here is serious. One of the biggest things you can do to help yourself be successful as a programmer is to make sure that you are being as healthy as possible. And I know. You guys are like me. You guys were probably up until 4 in the morning. You guys probably have a diet of, I don't know, Red Bulls and Frappuccinos and way more pizzas in 1 week than I want to admit. But one of the best things that you can do for your brain is not doing that. I don't care if you go to sleep at 4 in the morning, whatever, man, but get 8 hours of sleep, right? I don't care if you're drinking a bunch of Frappuccinos, but maybe too much caffeine isn't going to help, right? The point here is programming is going to take your whole brain. It's going to take the whole thing, right? And anything that you do that makes your brain not as good is going to exponentially affect your programming. That's it. One of the biggest things, and this sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. One of the biggest things that you can do in order to improve your programming is to get off the computer. I know. For every hour that you guys program, 45 minutes to an hour, you probably want to take a 15-minute break. Because what ends up happening is when you stare at the code for a very long time, you start to get confirmation bias. You start to think that everything that you've done looks right, because our brains have that thing where everything they look at, they want to believe. Like you see it, you read it, you understood what it was. It does not change from that as long as you're looking at it. You have to get up, reset your brain in order to come back to it and figure that out. Anecdotally, like I said, I have a story when I was converting this class over from C# to C++. I'm very, very good at C#. I've written C# for a very long time. I'm not as good at C++ simply because C++ has a lot of different moving parts and can be more complex. One of the biggest differences from C# and C++ is how we write data to the console, right? So C# was created, just as an example, C# was created by Microsoft for making Windows applications. That's what it was designed for. So anytime you need to do anything in Windows with C#, Microsoft has a bunch of cool fancy tools. C++ is like an ancient archaic language that was written in stone and used to do all kinds of crazy, it's on the spaceship, space shuttle kind of stuff. So it doesn't have all those fancy cool Microsoft tools to do Microsoft related things. So when I was converting the labs over from C# to C++, we use Windows machines here, I had to learn how to do all that stuff in C++ that Microsoft did for me. When we got to lab 6 is probably the most complicated because it's got a lot of things. It's further on the class, got a lot of things working inside of it. I ran into a problem where I could not figure out how to display the numbers on the screen the way I wanted. I'll explain it more in detail when we get there, but it's not important right now. I spent this whole class, I was able to just knock it out, just build all these tools, everything's going great. I built it in like maybe 2 weeks. I got everything rolling, and I got the lab 6, and it took me for the rest of the month to try to figure out that problem with lab 6. One problem with lab 6. I sat there, I debugged it, I got a bunch of pens and papers, and I wrote everything out in different color pens so I can kind of visualize everything, could not get it. I asked a bunch of my friends who are better developers than I am. These are the 10x developers that you hear in mythology. I asked them, and they have their own jobs, and they don't want to have to figure out this really complicated problem, so they looked at it and they said, huh, that sucks, man, good luck. So I agonized and I agonized and I agonized for a very long time. And eventually I was like, I need a break. I'm sitting here trying to beat this out. I'm bashing my head against the wall. I need to get some rest, come back to this with fresh eyes, take a weekend off. I went out. I drove to. You guys live here for a while by now, but I don't know if you guys have ever been to Winter Park Ave. It's really nice. It's down the street. It's a historic little walkway. It's good. It's called Park Ave because there's a nice park there. Anyway, there's a BurgerFi there, and I went out there. I walked around the park. I got myself a cheeseburger with them urban fries. If you guys have never been to BurgerFi, they do like a what is this? It's like a Parmesan garlic aioli and like rosemary fries. They're very good. I'm sitting here. I'm enjoying this beautiful day, not away from my computer in the sunshine, eating this burger outside, eating my fries, and then I look up into the sky and I realize the reason I wasn't getting the output I was looking for is because I needed to swap 2 numbers. That is true. That is a true story. But there was no way I was ever going to figure that out staring at my computer screen. I needed to walk away from it, allow my brain to untangle, right, loosen up all those knots that I had created, and then come back, refreshed, ready to go. So, again, it's going to sound like a joke. Like, not everybody, but many of you here will very likely to just, be very happy sitting in your home all day, just playing a video game and watching anime and YouTube videos and scrolling through TikTok or whatever it is we do nowadays. But going outside, getting that sunshine, and letting your brain unravel from staring at a screen, it's incredible how much it can help you with this stuff. Sorry, it's my soapbox.
On your ass in front of a computer screen is not natural or healthy, and that means you need to work extra hard in this line of work to protect your health, both mentally and physically. That's why I prefer to eat at Arby's, the most trusted name in nutrition. I also get plenty of sunshine and exercise to offset the time I spend banging my head against the keyboard in my mom's dark windowless basement. If your health is not optimal, you won't learn as efficiently, and there's no activity in the world that's worth sacrificing your health over. Now let's switch gears and talk about a physicist named Richard Feynman. He's a Nobel Prize winner known for many things, one of which is his learning technique. It goes like this: choose a concept you want to learn about, explain it to a 12-year-old, reflect, refine, simplify, then organize and review. In other words, you learn most efficiently when you try to teach the very thing you're learning. I can tell you right now that I've learned way more about programming from running this YouTube channel than I ever did working all by myself. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody needs to go and start a YouTube channel. All you have to do is pretend to teach something. But if you can't create valuable content out of it, like a video or a blog post, that's even better. Or if you already have a job, you'll find that you learn a lot just by mentoring other people. Or if you don't have a job, you can join programming Slack or Discord channels and help people out there.
So, people ask me how they can do that. Number one, we have a Discord channel, so if you want to help people on Discord, then that's great. Nobody is required to, but we appreciate any additional help you guys are willing to give. Everybody could use some more perspectives. But like you said, the best thing you can do for yourself is start a blog or a YouTube channel. But not everybody's going to want to do that. That's fine. But you know what you still can do? Start a blog or a YouTube channel and just don't show anybody. Make a YouTube channel of a bunch of private videos, write a bunch of articles that nobody's ever going to see, pretend like you are teaching somebody, explaining people what you're doing, and then don't ever release it. If you can release it, that's great. If you feel comfortable doing that, because, right, and this is just truth. When you're applying for a job, what's the first thing somebody's going to do? They're going to Google your ass, 100%. They're going to Google your name, and they're going to try to figure out if they can find you and find any history that you have on the internet. If what they find on the internet is a bunch of videos of you explaining how to program, guess what? They know you know how to program. Can't hurt, right? As part of the master's degrees here at Fullsail, we are required to do what's known as a mastery journal. So at the beginning, we look at the full course catalog, that is all the classes that we learn, and we talk about the goals that we have for taking the degree. And then you say, this is what I'm gonna focus on when I'm in each one of these classes so that I can reach my goal at the end. And at the end of every single class, you do a retrospective explaining what you learned in the class, how your understanding of it is, and how you're gonna use that to apply it to your overall goal at the end of the program, right? You are required to do that during the masters. You are not required to do that here. However, you guys be in all in your best interest to do something similar to stay on track and keep your eyes on the prize, but also to do that Feynman technique and give yourself a time at the end of the course or at the end of the assignment to kind of do a retrospective and see how far you've come, because you guys will come very far very quickly.
Or answer questions on Stack Overflow. Helping others feels good and forces you to be extremely precise about what you actually know. Here's how it might look for a programmer. Choose a topic, like I want to program a video game, do some research and experimenting, and write a summary explaining the technology to a 12-year-old. Then go and build something and get to a full working demo as quickly as possible. It doesn't need to be perfect, because in the final step, you'll go back and refactor and simplify and find ways to improve your process and get feedback from someone more experienced than you if possible. So approach it like a teacher, even though you have no idea what you're currently teaching. Now, I said something very subtle but very important, and that is to build a full working demo as quickly as possible. Learning is supposed to be painful, but there also needs to be some kind of reward for that pain. And the more quickly you can get to those rewards, the better. Because what you want is a positive feedback loop that basically makes you addicted to coding. There are ways we can hack the most primitive parts of our brain. What I do almost every day before I go to bed is write down a few small goals that I want to achieve the next day. The important thing is that the goals are achievable, because then writing a check mark next to that goal feels good. When good things happen, your brain releases dopamine, and you want to try to find activities that after hard work give you that dopamine hit, because otherwise you'll have a negative feedback loop, in which case you're going to absolutely hate coding in no time. That'd be like learning how to press the strings on a guitar without ever knowing how to play an actual song. The idea is to work hard and be rewarded, but you don't want to work too hard. It's extremely important, especially for programming, to pace yourself and take regular breaks. For most people, that likely means 1 or 2 hours of programming, followed by a nice long break. I remember in my early days being absolutely determined to not let the error messages win. I'd go late into the night, Stack Overflowing every possible combination of questions, only to give up and get a good night's sleep, and then come back and immediately solve the problem in the morning. And this isn't unique to me. It happens to everybody, because mental spacing is actually a very important thing. You can be mentally exhausted, while at the same time, your ego is saying, you got this, bro, don't be a loser. But the reality is that the most efficient thing to do is go outside, get some sunshine, jump in a cold body of water, and get some sleep. When you wake up, you'll be ready to crush it once again. Now that you know how to learn to code, all you have to do is go to Google, type in what you want to learn, and let it be your guide, because that's basically all you ever do as a software engineer. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to get the next video in this install.
There we go. I highly recommend Fireship. He's primarily a web developer, so that many of his things are going to be web development related. However, he does a regular segment called the Code Report, where he will talk about what's going on with technology and companies and things like that. So it's very good and interesting knowledge for anybody who's trying to be a part of this industry. All right, so we are about an hour in, which means we got about an hour and a half left to go at full steam ahead, and by that I mean we're taking a break. Every hour or so, we're gonna take about a 15-minute break. I'm not gonna make you sit here and listen to me yap for 3 straight hours. So get up, go outside, go to the bathroom, get some water, do whatever it is you need to do, and we will come back here. It's currently 2:05. We're gonna come back here at 2:20. We're gonna get back into some more course policies and software stuff. I'll see you guys in a bit. Go take care of yourself. All right, it's time to get back in it. Probably should have taken some of that time to fix my webcam, but here we are.
About mastering the technical theory.
Nope. All right, so like I said, we are learning a facsimile of C++. We are not really learning C++. Like I said, I did that for 2 reasons. Number one, C++ in and of itself is fairly complex. You will see a lot of things where people are like, oh, here's what beginner programming language you guys should learn. And everybody has their own opinions. But as we've heard before, syntax doesn't really matter. Very rarely you will see C++ recommended as the first language you should learn. When you do hear C++ recommended as the first language you learn, it's because C++ is the most powerful language out there pretty much, and it's a great foundation for every other language. So I intentionally obscure the weird parts so that you guys can get all the benefits of learning the most powerful language without having to deal with all the weird manual memory management stuff. So here's some just basic examples of declaring a string variable. Strings themselves are just words and phrases. They're strung together characters. So you can see up here, here's the version of C++ we're going to use in C++. So C++, we have to prefix it with this std, which we'll talk about a little bit before. Then we have a variable name, and then we have our value here, right? C#, which is my personal favorite language out there. Real nice and clean. It just says string greeting hello world. It's beautiful, wonderful. You can't use that. Sorry. Then we have Java, which is uppercase string. There's a very specific reason for that. And we have TypeScript, which is the type sensitive. That means everything is a type strict version of this for JavaScript, right? JavaScript itself. You will hear me talk about this a lot because a lot of people will recommend JavaScript as like a fine starting point as of a language, because it's fairly simple, but it is so vastly different from every other language because it's oversimplified. It's a bad foundation. So here's some examples here. This is a cast. We're going to talk about this a little bit more on Wednesday, but this is when we have to convert from one data type to another data type. C++, C#, most of these languages. Are what's known as a type strict language, like I mentioned before. That means we need to say the type of data we are using, right? Most languages worth their salt will be type strict. The notable exceptions are going to be Python and JavaScript. They're not type strict. So for instance, if I have a number, numbers are stored as integers. I say this is an integer, but I want to convert that from a whole number value to a floating point number value that is a number that has a decimal point. It is in my best interest to do that by doing an explicit conversion that says I am taking a whole number value and making it a number value with a decimal. Does that make sense? Any questions? The most common way for us to do that is we do what's known as a cast. And you can see here, this is what's known as a C-style cast. It started in the C language, it perpetuated to the other C-style languages, and the ones that came up. It just looks like this. So this is like the original value. This is the thing we're going to do. Here's the thing. We're going to cover that more. We're going to cover that more, like I said, on Wednesday. I will say, in C# there is another more complicated way to perform a cast, or C++, that is this class. There is another and more complicated way to do a cast, and you are not allowed to do it. If you do a different type of cast, you will get a 0. That is the most common way for you to get a 0 on your projects for week 1. If you guys are here, paying attention, listening to me say this right now, probably not happen to you. Just keep that in mind. We'll come back to this later.
So he's talking directly to me, and this is the conflict, right? This is the conflict. The only thing that they have to do is teach. It's not difficult to just be a fucking teacher, right? The thing that you can't do is a static cast, right? When I first started programming, I didn't know any fucking thing about programming. I'm trying to figure this shit out on my own. I don't know what the fuck to do. You tell me to go on the internet and learn how to fucking program. So I have to do a cast. You said I have to do a cast. I asked ChatGPT, how can I convert this language? How can I convert this type to another type? I didn't even know what the fuck a type was. I'm just writing shit into the computer because I don't have any of the information. I don't have a foundation. I don't know any fucking thing. I'm ignorant. My 2 cents. Self-improvement through self-education. I don't know fucking anything. I don't know shit. I get tired at the age of 42. I get tired of going into situations and having understanding and communicating to people. Hey, I understand this thing that I'm trying to do. Can I? Perfect example. I work at McDonald's. Hey, I know how to make a double cheeseburger. This is how a double cheeseburger is made. I have some young kid come in, just started work. This is a double cheeseburger. A double cheeseburger consists of these ingredients in this order. Can you copy the thing that I just showed you to show me that you're understanding what I'm doing? And then he forgets pickles. You did a good job, but you forgot the pickles. And then he gets mad at me because of my hair texture, my skin complexion, and tries to convince me that I'm fucking stupid. And I'm trying to get him to understand I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I showed you how to do this properly, and I need you to step out of your own ego and out of your own arrogance so that you can understand what needs to happen. So I go into programming, and they don't do that fucking shit. They don't tell me specifically what they want me to fucking do, step by step, day by day, like a fucking little kid. The same way that Nessa was in here trying to get me to do dumb fucking shit that doesn't matter. When it comes to me learning how to program, they don't want to give me the information I need to do it the way it needs to be done, the way they want it done. All of a sudden, go out and do research and go into the World Wide Web and figure it out on your own. And then I do that shit and they're like, oh, you did some stuff that we didn't want you to do, so we're going to give you a 0. That's counterproductive to the learning process. I don't know any of this shit. I didn't know any of this fucking stuff. So how am I supposed to do it? So you heard him say specifically, if you use a static cast, you're going to get a 0, right? But why is it necessary to try to drop me from the class instead of just being an educator? Why is it necessary to try to set somebody up for failure instead of trying to set someone up for success? Because American society and indirectly the rest of the world is built on the idea that there's not enough for everybody. So 100% of the kids in the class can't graduate. And we want all of the fucking European kids to graduate. And we don't want to have to drop them because you're going to graduate. So we need you to be a fucking failure because of your skin complexion and your hair texture so that all of the younger Caucasian kids can actually pass. Because if you get 100%, because of the way the school is structured, we have to fail somebody else. And that's the part that people don't want to understand. That's the part that escapes the individual reality of us functioning in this system, right? You just watched this whole video of everything he just said. He said the best way to learn is to, I can't make this shit up. This was recorded yesterday. He just said the best way to learn is to start a YouTube channel and record videos teaching somebody else some shit. He just said that shit. He recorded this yesterday. You can watch my video. Hold on. You can watch the videos yesterday where I show that you heard someone saying that the live stream, the one that they're doing, you can hear me say I made assumptions about why the lecture was 12 hours long. That I felt like they were waiting for me to log in so that they could try to communicate and talk with me, but I wasn't able to show up because I had to work. You can hear me say that in a live stream yesterday. That's all bullshit. I'm ignorant. I don't know every fucking thing. That's all bullshit. You heard someone in the class say, this lecture is 12 hours. They scheduled the lecture to be 12 hours online while he was giving the lecture. He said himself, no, we're not doing a 12-hour lecture. Because instead of them teaching, they want to argue and fight and prove the point and validate that it's the opposite of science. It's bias and prejudice. Instead of them trying to help me become the thing that I'm trying to become, they need to prove their position by disproving my position. So they're taking a position of adversary against me for no reason, other than ego and arrogance and maybe racism. Maybe racism. Racism is not the end all to every fucking thing. But what is it all saying? Don't equate to don't equate to malice what could simply be ignorance. But ignorance and malice go hand in hand. Just because just because someone does something, just because you think somebody is doing something malicious to you, doesn't necessarily mean that they are. Sometimes people are just being ignorant. But if the consequence of a person's actions is still the same as malice, then you can take the consequence as malice. If someone is doing something in ignorance that injures you, even though they did not mean to injure you, you still have the right to acknowledge that you were injured. You can still acknowledge you were injured. They're just going to be able to sit in a European court and prove that they're not responsible. But it doesn't change the fact that you still suffered, right? That's why I have to take this class again. I have to take this class a second time because I did what they asked me to do. I followed the instructions that I was given, and I don't know. You see all of this information. None of these are fucking casts. None of this is a cast. A float is not a cast. An integer is not a cast. None of this information, for someone that doesn't know anything about programming, none of this information is relevant to what they want me to do. So I watched the video, but you didn't teach me any fucking thing. So when I go on the internet and then I go to ChatGPT to learn, because I heard you say cast, and I asked ChatGPT, how do I do a cast? I have to cast this number to something else. And then ChatGPT is like, here's a static cast. And I'm like, I don't think that's right. Well, no, this is what you need to do. I don't think that's right. No, this is what you need to do. I don't think that's right. No, this is what you need to do. How am I supposed to fucking know? I have this intuitive sense that that's probably not correct, but I don't know. But you're setting up the class to prove that people are cheating instead of just letting us fucking learn. What is the point of that? I'm not paying you $6,000 to prove that I'm not cheating. I'm just paying you $6,000 to teach me how to program. It should be super fucking simple for you to teach me how to program because you've got all the fucking experience. But you're making it harder than it needs to be. And you heard the fucking lecture. You can hear the connotation, and because here's the thing. We are self-centered people, right? Everything that we do in the world is always about me, I, you, like it's always you are the main character of the story, right? But you can hear it. You can fucking hear it. Like I'm recording these videos for me and I'm all about myself, but you can hear it, the statement. You can hear it clear as day.
Version of this for JavaScript, right? JavaScript itself, you will hear me talk about this a lot because the notable exceptions are going to be Python and JavaScript. They are not TypeScript. So for instance, if I have a numbers are stored as integers. I say this is an integer, but if I want to convert that from a whole number value to a floating point number value that is a number that has a decimal point, it is in my best interest to do that by doing an explicit conversion that says I am taking a whole number value and making it a number value with a decimal. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Listen.
The most common way for us to do that is we do what's known as a cast. And you can see here, this is what's known as a C-style cast. It started in the C language, it perpetuated to the other C-style languages, and the ones that came up just looks like this. So this is like the original value. This is the thing we're going to do. Here's the thing. We're going to cover that more. Like I said, on Wednesday. I will say, in C#, there is another more complicated way to perform a cast, or C++, that is this class. There is another and more complicated way to do a cast, and you are not allowed to do it. If you do a different type of cast, you will get a 0. That is the most common way for you to get a 0 on your projects for week 1. If you guys are here, paying attention, listening to me say this right now, will probably not happen to you. Just keep that in mind. We'll come back to this later.
To give you a full understanding of all the things that you cannot do would be to write a novel, right? That is what the instructor said to me when I asked him, what are the guardrails of what is expected of me? Yet you're making it perfectly clear that there is something you do not want me to do, but you won't tell me what that thing is. Because if you do the thing that I don't want you to do, then I know that you're using large language models to educate yourself. And if you're using large language models to educate yourself, that is a violation of academic integrity, and we will give you a 0. But we live in 2025. And just like Donald Trump sitting up on a fucking platform talking about how he's going to bring back the coal industry, shit's never going to happen. We're never going to go back to the way things used to be. We're just not. Within 10 years, not even 10 years, with the fact that me, at the age of 40 fucking, think about it. Think about it. Like, think about it critically. If you were between the ages of 18 and 25, critically think. Critically fucking think. If a 42-year-old man that has never had any programming experience can perform at the same level as an academic instructor at Fullsail, why the fuck would you ever hire somebody that has been disciplined in traditional programming? Where you can hire a programmer and pay them the same fucking thing that somebody at McDonald's is making. Think about it critically. Really critically think about it. You can hire a regular person off the street, and Doug has already explained that the average 13-year-old is intelligent enough to program, right? Because he wants to create this idea humbly of how intelligent he is, that he was smart enough at the age 18, at 13 to be able to be a web developer and produce content on the internet when that shit was way more simpler than it is now. It's disingenuous. It's disingenuous to sit back and pretend like programming 20 years ago, when you had a very finite amount of things that had to be done and a very limited amount of expectations for you, is the same as a 13-year-old today trying to fucking program with networking. And like, there's so many different things that have, you can't even, back when I was a child, we didn't even think about security. Security was a second thought. Well, are you going to protect us from hackers? Like, not really. There's hackers don't really exist. But now people have like, there's artificial intelligence units that can destroy a website now. Like, how are you supposed to, like, you know what I'm saying? But that's like the direction we're going in with all this crap. So think about critically think about the fact that you can take somebody at the age of 13, sit them in front of ChatGPT, and have them program at the introductory level of a master programmer. You just give them the instructions on what you need them to do, and they can sit there and they can, because the only thing large language models need right now is a human brain to confirm that the output is what is expected. That's the only thing they need us to do at the moment. Output is what is expected. Output is not what is expected. Do this thing. Here's the output. This is not what was expected. Here's new output. This is what was expected. That's the only thing our brains are useful when it comes to using large language models. That's it. Until they get more refined to where they can actually know that the things that we're doing is not correct, that's what they're useful for. So it doesn't make any sense. You're like, no, the most important thing about being a programmer is problem solving. I've been problem solving for 42 fucking years. I slept in my goddamn car at the rest stop for 10 months and got an apartment. I worked 2 jobs at McDonald's and at Burger King and at Firestone, and got all of this shit through basic problem solving. I have survived fucking racism with no criminal record. I got fucking married in spite of racism internationally. Flew across the fucking Atlantic Ocean to get married. All due to what? Problem solving. Problem solving is what I've done. I have game design documents on my computer right fucking now. I've already solved a lot of problems. I've already figured out a lot of shit. Will all of it work exactly the way I wanted to? Probably not. But I've already done that shit. The biggest problem that I have in life is being honest and having integrity and having people like this trying to undermine me for no fucking reason. For no reason. There's absolutely no reason for that energy. It takes the same amount of energy to be kind as it does to be disrespectful. It takes the same amount of energy to say do it now as it does to say please and thank you. When I was working at Firestone this year, I was trained to do my job. I reached a level of proficiency, and I was constantly moved around to try to prove that I wasn't good enough. They brought in somebody, and I trained him on how to do the fucking job. I taught him how to do the job. Taught him how to do the job in less time than it took me to learn how to do it. I had him up to speed at the master level of doing the job within 40 days. You know what they did with him? They terminated him. Oh, we didn't like him. We let him go. They sent him back to where he came, and he was Caucasian. And I already knew what they were trying to do. I already knew what they were doing. I was like, you know what, fuck it. I don't care. I'm not interested in his energy. I'm gonna teach him how to do the job, because if I can teach him how to do the job, I can prove competence. They brought in a 20-year-old, Blake. He couldn't do it. He was able to perform at the same level that I was performing at, which means that the mistakes and errors that he was making were the human level mistakes and errors that was equivalent to the same mistakes and errors that I'm making. So they couldn't replace him with me because we were basically equal, and he was half my age. So it's like we have this guy that's doing the same thing, but he's not quite as proficient. And then they brought in Casey, Casey was my age, but he was Caucasian. And then Casey, being my age, this is gonna be easy. This dude's an adult. He's mature. I taught Casey how to do the job in 1 week. And the only thing that Casey couldn't do was the stuff that I didn't teach him. Stuff I didn't teach him, he couldn't do. Everything else he could do. Had him trained and up and running in a week. And then guess who I got replaced with? Brian. Brian was an uneducated, no high school diploma kid that was bilingual. He could speak Spanish and English. And the people that worked there that spoke Spanish constantly had a problem with me because I couldn't speak fucking Spanish. Because when it comes to people seeing my skin texture and my hair, I'm automatically stupid. I'm automatically dumb. I'm automatically don't know anything. I'm automatically don't know anything, and I'm lazy and I don't know how to keep track of time. Like all of these unnecessary biases and stereotypes that have been created by society that I'm not responsible for. I didn't do any of that shit. But they speak Spanish, so when I would try to communicate to them at the level of my proficiency of communicating, the language barrier was a problem. So they couldn't understand. So when they saw stuff happening and everyone's like, well, it's just Paul. They just believed it. Like, yeah, it's got to be Paul because he's the black guy. It's got to be the black guy. There was a disconnect. I couldn't get them to understand it. I'm not stupid. So, Brian, uneducated. And I watched Brian. When Brian was working together, he was chill. He was cool. He liked me. He thought I was a older mentor. Like he had a lot of respect for me. And Europeans just destroyed that shit. They just eroded it. And I already knew it was gonna happen. Cause I know he was like, I don't understand why you're like kind of cold and kind of distant, and you don't really want to like be my friend. But it's like it's not about any of that. It's about understanding the reality of the world. The reality of the world is that when it comes to you making money for you to take care of you, you don't care about me. You're not gonna. When it comes to having to draw the line between, I don't like the way you're treating this guy, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not a part of discrimination and prejudice, versus being able to eat and pay your rent and have food on your table. You're always going to side with being able to eat and have food on your table and be apathetic to the way that someone else is being treated, because you understand that the way that you're treating that person, you could be treating me that way, and I don't want to be treated that way. I don't want to be disrespected. I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want to be kicked to the side and restricted from having. I want the things that I need. I want the things that I want. And Brian came in and immediately started attacking Casey. Like, yeah, you see how me and Denise and we're gonna make sure that and it's like, what is that energy? Why are you coming to work making Casey's job difficult? Casey's only been working for a week. Of course he's gonna make mistakes. He's human. He's a fucking human. I don't care that he's European. I don't have a problem with Europeans. I have a problem with dumb fucking people. That's what I have a problem with. Stupid fucking people that don't want to be functional adults. That's my grievance in life. Casey's doing his job to the best of his abilities, and he will improve and get better. Why do you have to make things harder for someone that doesn't have the information at hand? And the answer is because it's easier to deflect and blame others than it is to take accountability for self. Just like with the academics, teachers. Now they want to be walking around with this arrogance and ego to try to expose and disprove me. I don't want to fucking come to work and fight you. I'm so goddamn tired of having to constantly have to be aggressive toward people. And then when I raise my fucking voice and start screaming, everyone's like, whoa, what's your problem, Mr. Emerson? Why are you upset? Why am I in a confrontation with you? Why am I arguing? Why am I fighting? What are we fighting over? What is the necessary need for to be the unnecessary aggression? And when you take a position of being meek in society, then you lose. Meek means you don't care. You're apathetic. You're not interested. You're not that serious. But then when you walk in with black girl energy, argumentative, loud, disrespectful, masculine, then it's like, oh, you're over the top. But I shouldn't have to constantly push against bullshit. There's enough resources that we should not be engaged in unnecessary conflict. There is absolutely no reason why this screen couldn't say, do not use a static cast. For these reasons, do not use a static cast. These are all of the file types that you are allowed to use to write your code, and this is what you need to complete this assignment. There is zero reason why that shit couldn't be put up there, other than the fact that Fullsail understands that 100% of students cannot pass the class and they have to drop a certain percentage. There is a certain number that the instructors have been given of how many people will pass and will fail, and it is your job to go through these documents and weed them out on a bell curve and give them justification why they're not fucking good enough. That is the assignment and the job of the instructors at Fullsail, because it's the same thing that every university and every education system has done since the day that you step foot into kindergarten. So the very first day that we step foot into these academic systems, we are put into positions of who we will be in life for the rest of our fucking lives. And nobody understands that. Nobody understands that most of the people that dropped out of high school were already the number of percentage of people that would drop out of high school. If you didn't finish high school and you're like walking around trying to go through life trying to understand why you wasn't successful in high school, it's because you were fucking dropped. You either didn't make an effort or you were low enough on the curve that they just dropped you. And it is not fair. It's disingenuous to society. And when you have something like ChatGPT, where it don't fucking, what is more important? Having a high school diploma and being fucking stupid, or not having a high school diploma and being intelligent? Which one's more important? Because at the end of the day, if you could be a functional adult, then all that paperwork shit don't really matter. And then the industry doesn't fucking care. They can pay you less for not having a high school diploma, but they'll still hire you. You just will have to struggle. And even if you had a high school diploma, they could hire somebody that has a degree and pay the person with a degree more than you. And you guys will be equal. Actually, you'll be me. You'll be more intelligent than the people around you with fucking degrees. But because you make less money, but because you don't have the higher education, they can justify paying you less. Everybody in America works in a job doing the same kind of work, getting different amounts of money. African Americans typically make less money doing the same work as the people standing next to them. And then when the people standing next to an African, if you're working next to an African American guy and you're like, I don't understand why this guy isn't performing at the same level that I'm performing at, he's making $2 less than you. You're doing the same fucking job, but he's making $2 less than you. You're getting paid $20 an hour, he's making $18 an hour. You're getting paid $25 an hour, he's making $23 an hour. You're getting paid $30 an hour, he's making $27 an hour. He's not fucking motivated because he's not making enough money to not be at work. Think about how he can't pay his rent, he can't pay his bills, he doesn't have enough money to cover his car insurance. He has to figure out what's more important, being able to eat or going on a date. That's why he's not there. That's the reason why he's apathetic about life, because these are the unnecessary adversities. It's not necessary. None of this shit's necessary. So this is the reason why I designed, this is the whole foundation of why My 2 Cents exists. Like, this is the foundation. And at the end of the day, you can hear it. You heard him say, if you do this thing, you will fail the class. Because they don't have any invested interest in me actually doing any of the work. They see my profile picture. I'm not actively engaged in the class, and I'm cheating. I'm not putting in the time that I need. I'm just making excuses and whining and whining and complaining. Excuse me. And I'm cheating. And that's the reason why I am doing it this way. That's why I'm doing it this way. Because my goal was never to go to Fullsail. There's 700, there's all this money in the system for me to give to European institutions for me to get crumbs. I get $700 a month in basic housing allowance that I can use to pay my rent for that institution to get $6,000, and the least they could fucking do is give me a 61%. That's the least they could fucking do. Is give me a 61 fucking percent so that I can go on to the next fucking class. But because of racism and discrimination and prejudice and the standards of this country and people like fucking Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump, they feel fully obligated and fully within their right to look at me as somebody that is not competent. I'm an old man that is not deserving of an opportunity, and it will just give me a fucking zero. Because what is it gonna cost them to just give me a 61%? What is it gonna fucking cost them? Nothing. No, absolutely fucking nothing. But to have me challenge them is gonna bruise their fucking ego. And guess what? I don't fucking care. Don't fucking care. I have fought NCOs. I have fought sergeants. I have made commanders and colonels watch fucking dishes as KP duty. I don't fucking care. I had a fucking a gold leaf. Was that a colonel? It's been a while. I'm pretty sure it's colonel. If it's not, then whatever. I had a fucking gold leaf come into my KP tent when I was in the field because we got disrespected so fucking much as cooks. I made it perfectly clear to the command team that we will not serve food if we do not get fucking KP. We will not serve food if we don't get KP. And my staff sergeant backed me on that shit. We couldn't get KP from any other units. So you know what happened? The commander, she couldn't get nobody to show up. She fucking showed up. As soon as she walked through that tent, I'm a 34-year-old man. Me and her are the same age. We're the same fucking age. As soon as she came to that tent, I'm here to work. I need my soldiers to eat food. No problem, ma'am. I appreciate you coming over here. What would you like to do? It's the first thing I asked her. What would you like to do? That's respect. What would you like to do? She was like, what do you got? I was like, well, we got some dishes over here that needs to be stacked. Or you can wash dishes in the sink over here, or so I guess I could just wash the dishes. That's probably a little bit easier. I was like, no problem, man. We'll get you up to speed. And I got over there and started getting her set up. As soon as I did that shit, all types of black bars and they kept running in. The yellow and gold bars keep running like, no, you can't wash dishes, ma'am. And we'll take care of it. But they should have did that shit when she asked for it, right? It should have never been a problem for her to request people to come assist the cooks. But nobody wanted to do that shit. And she understood, it doesn't make any fucking sense that you guys want to eat food, but you don't want to cook. And the cooks are like, we need help. And you don't want to understand that. You just feel like... Battery died. It's got about 2 more hours before I have to leave. About 2.5 hours. I still have to get up and go to work. This video would be done by now.
And this is just some more stuff here. This is
None of this information is okay. So this is what I need, but here's the conflict. We're not taking C#, we're not taking Java, and we're not doing TypeScript. STD string, this or that, Boolean condition, string, result equal that, if condition, result this. None of this information is about casting, right? So he's talking about casting. I'm supposed to be learning how to cast because that's the lesson for today. But none of the information that he's explaining right now is covering any of that shit. So let me keep watching these videos so that I can learn what it is that I need to do. That's just the video. That's how I know I'm able to see what I'm doing. That's my video there. So this is here, and it should be horizontal, but YouTube doesn't like horizontal video feeds, so I have to do it this way.
Would be what that is, Charles, yes. This is just some examples of how to create functions. These are all different ways of how to create functions. You can see though, regardless of the language, right? These are all functionally the same. There's no difference here, right? The primary difference we see here is the way that things are named. You know, this uppercase and lowercase, which really doesn't matter. It's just the stylistic choice. And again, the STD prefix up here, right? Otherwise, we are generally the same, right? Which again, like I said, you learn one language, you learn the basics of one language, you can pretty much learn any language. Nothing has to be set up in any particular way only. It's just some languages have different ways they prefer you to do stuff. And this is a loop. We'll talk about this in your. We'll talk about this during your week 2. So this is an example of a for loop. This is a for loop is one of the most basic types of loops we have. They're a counting loop. Again, you can see a for loop. No matter what language you look at, is going to be relatively the same. Specifically, this is a for loop being used to iterate through a collection. That is, we're going to go through each item in a larger structure of multiple things, right? Again, pretty much the same no matter which way you look at it. And so one of the other reasons I designed the class the way I did is because if you guys have a question about something in particular, for example, if you're struggling with loops, right? You don't have to look at only C++ resources because again, C++ resources can be a little bit too verbose.
But you should be.
Too complicated and things like that. If you can find a language for another, if you can find a resource for another language like Java or C# or something like that, that's easier for you to understand, then you can pretty easily translate that back to C#, right? Or C++. Don't copy and paste it wholesale. That's probably not going to work. But you use that as a basis for an understanding of the concept. Bring that back to the first-party resources we provide. Bring that back to the first-party resources we provide to kind of, give you a bridge, and then you can use that as well as many more tools. One of the common questions I get in this class is like, is there a book? Do you guys have a book? And I don't have a book because C++ is complicated, and any C++ book I give you guys is going to be literally 3,000 pages, and this class will be covered in the first 10. That's just it. But there are better books for other languages like C# or Python or Java, right? That are more easy to understand. So you guys, again, feel like you would like to have a book of some sort. Do not hesitate to explore other languages as well.
I don't have the time, but I'm gonna make the time. He just said, someone said, do you guys have a book? And his response was, I don't have a book. C++ is complicated, and if I had a book of C++, the book will be 3,000 pages, but the concepts in this class will only be covered in the first 10. Why? If you structured the class, really pay attention to what I'm saying. Why, if you structure the class, can you not structure the class around the first 10 pages of the book so that we can have a concise document list of things that we need to do that would be the guardrails that you expect us to stay inside of to complete the fucking course? You're supposed to be this super epic programmer with all this experience, but you can't figure out how to structure a class so that your students can have the highest possible position of passing. And the answer is that they need enough values, they need enough error and mistakes to reduce the total number of people that are graduating from the program. They need to artificially create the idea that programming is difficult. If a 13-year-old kid, if the age of proficiency required to actually be a proficient programmer is 13, and you got people coming in at the ages of 18 to 24, learning programming, 100% of adults coming in should be able to learn how to program. But just like diamonds, we have to artificially inflate the value of this thing by producing a success to fail rate artificially. So my class is designed to artificially create success and failure. And the way that we artificially create success and failures gives us the capacity within that to drop people as we see fit. We determine who's going to pass and fail based on the way that we've structured the class. That's the conflict. That's the reason why I'm live streaming. It's got nothing like, that's the reason why I'm live streaming. This is the whole, because like you heard, this isn't me putting words in his mouth. You just heard what he said. He just said it himself. There's no book because the first.
We have their counting loop. Again, you can see a for loop. No matter what language you look at, is going to be relatively the same. Specifically, this is a for loop being used to iterate through a collection. That is, we're going to go through each item in a larger structure of multiple things, right? Again, pretty much the same no matter which way you look at it. So one of the other reasons I designed the class the way I did is because if you guys have a question about something in particular, for example, if you're struggling with loops, right? You don't have to look at only C++ resources because again, C++ resources can be a little bit too verbose, a little bit like too complicated and things like that. If you can find a language for another, if you can find a resource for another language like Java or C# or something like that, that's easier for you to understand, then you can pretty easily translate that back to C#, right, or C++. Don't copy and paste it wholesale. That's probably not going to work. But use that as a basis for an understanding of the concept. Bring that back to the first-party resources we provide to kind of give you a bridge, and then you can use that as well as many more tools. One of the common questions I get in this class is like, is there a book? Do you guys have a book? And I don't have a book because C++ is complicated, and any C++ book I give you guys is going to be literally 3,000 pages, and this class will be covered in the first 10.
Why can't you give us the first 10?
But there are better books for other languages like C# or Python or Java, right, that are more easy to understand. So you guys, again,
why can't you give us the first 10
pages? A book
pages?
of some sort. Do not hesitate to explore other languages as well. And this is class. These are classes. These are how we make custom data types. So I said we have type strict data in this class. We need to define what it is. At the end of this class and during the week 3, we will be creating our own types, right? So, for example, you guys will know how to store a number, right? That's like I said, integer typed value, whole number values. You guys have seen words and phrases already, just briefly. So those were stored in strings, right? But what happens if I have a person, right? What happens if we're making a game and I need to store some kind of character? What happens if I have items, like we have equipment and things like that? How do I store those things? So we need to make custom types in order to do those things, and we'll discuss that at the end of the class. But again, very similar across the board, minor differences. C# and Java are identical in this particular example. This actually shouldn't have an STD there. But C++ and C#, they're all very similar. All right. Now, during this class, we will have a external resource policy. That means that you guys should be primarily using the first-party resources that I have provided you guys here during this class. That is whatever videos I have, the I have some
Now,
videos
remember-
you guys could use. These lectures.
Remember, he said he wants us to use the materials that he has provided for us to pass the class, but he did not provide any information on C++. He has encouraged students to research languages outside of C++ which are not compatible with the C++ programming language. If I'm studying Java, I'm wasting time studying Java because it's not compatible with C++. I can learn JavaScript, but it's not going to help me write code in C++. You have to write C++ code in C++. That's like studying Spanish to try to learn English within a accelerated class. Like the amount of time you spend focused on a thing is the most important. The amount of time you spend focused on a thing is super critical and super important. So you're not giving us what we need to be successful. You're encouraging us to go beyond the scope of the resources that you gave us to be successful, while simultaneously telling us that if we do that, we will fail. And the only problem that they have, the only pushback is we don't want you to use large language models. We are threatened by large language models and we don't want you to use them because it undermines our ability to fail students at the rate that we want to fail them. Right? That's why I'm adding commentary, because this is actually kind of productive. I should be doing my homework. But if I'm gonna go ahead and do this shit, I might as well just do it correctly. So that's the part that you need to take away. If you're between the ages of 18 and 25, which is the target audience group for my 2 cents, and you're actually watching this is the takeaway.
Right, as well as the follow-along videos I have. And each assignment will have a series of approved external resources. So I'll link to some specific YouTube videos and some specific LinkedIn learning videos, right? However, you cannot implement anything that I have not taught you directly, right? So that means if you go to a resource on your own, you Google something, which is a very common way to solve things, and you find a resource that provides you with a potential solution to the problem you are facing, you cannot, again, wholesale copy and paste that solution into your lab. You need to take that, compare it against the resources that I have provided you with, and use that to be, again, a bridge to help you understand what's going on.
This is the fucking bullshit. This is the shit in life that pisses me the fuck off. Because you're setting me up for fucking failure. You're going out of your way to try to prove that I'm a fucking nigger instead of just doing your fucking job. And I have to waste time and energy to validate my fucking self to you instead of just doing what I need to do to learn the shit that I'm trying to learn. I don't want to fucking validate myself to Europeans. I want to just do what I want to do and live the life that I want to live. I should not have to waste my fucking life proving to fucking Charlie Kirk that his bullshit is true. It's not true. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to put extra energy into that shit. I shouldn't have an instructor telling me that I have to do it the way he wants me to fucking do it and not the way that works. That's not education. That's fucking obedience. I'm not a fucking servant. I'm not a fucking servant. I'm not going to ever work for this guy. I'm never going to get a job working at Fullsail. And everything that I'm going to learn is just like fucking basic training. You go through 2 months of basic fucking training, and as soon as you get your duty station, you know what the first thing that you're told? Every fucking soldier knows this. The first thing you're told after you've graduated basic training is, none of the things that you've learned will ever be applied here in this environment. So you want me to prove that I can follow instructions, but you also are going out of your way to try to find the weaknesses of my humanity to validate your position that I'm not good enough. Based on you, not based on anything that I've done. Just let me prove, if I could just find one weakness to prove that you're not good enough. That's a waste of my fucking life. It's a waste of my fucking life.
There's several different reasons for this, but this is And each assignment will have a series of approved external resources. So I'll link to some specific YouTube videos and some specific LinkedIn learning videos, right? However, you cannot implement anything that I have not taught you directly. Right? So that means if you go to a resource on your own, you Google something, which is a very common way to solve things. And you find a resource that provides you with a potential solution to the problem. Problem you are facing. You cannot, again, wholesale copy. And paste that solution into your lab. You need to take that, compare it against the resources that I have provided you with, and use that to be, again, a bridge to help you understand what's going on. There's several different reasons for this.
There are several different reasons for this. I'm going to assume he's not going to explain none of them.
But This is a zero tolerance policy. If I go into your code and there is something that I have not allowed you in there, then you get a 0.
Didn't explain any of that shit. There's several reasons for it, but this is a zero tolerance class. There's several reasons why I want you to do it the way I want you to do it, but I'm not going to explain why. This is a zero tolerance class. If you do what I ask you not to do, you will be dropped from the class. Let me explain. Self-improvement through self-education. This academic institution is designed to create people that think like Europeans. If you deviate from the standard that we have given to European students, then you will be dropped. Because the instructions that I'm giving to this class are for people that are white. If you are white, you will stay within the rails of being white. And if you are non-white, then you have not been given the instructions all your life to be able to be successful in this course. Because the educational institutions that you went through did not teach you the things you need and have not given you the foundation that you need to be able to make it through life. If you are exceptional non-white, then you will be able to keep up and you will be able to make it through. But we know that from kindergarten to 12th grade, the United States education system has been designed to make sure that Europeans are administrators and supervisors. We have taught all white people in this country to be leaders and hold positions of authority. And we have made sure that all non-whites are subordinates and will follow directions and will do what they're told. And you have to do what I'm telling you to fucking do, because if you don't, I'm going to give you a 0 because you're supposed to be a fucking nigger. You're not supposed to be thinking critically. You're not supposed to be maximizing your understanding of the world. You're supposed to be following directions and staying within the guardrails that we gave to you. What have they said 1,000 fucking times? Do it the way that we tell you to do it. Stop trying to learn. Stop trying to be proficient. Stop trying to understand. That's what they're saying. That's what they keep iterating to me. Stop trying to learn. Stop trying to be proficient. Stop trying to understand. Follow directions. Do what we're telling you to do the way we tell you to do it. What they are saying is, how many soap bubbles are in a bar of soap, Mr. Emerson? Go get a bar of soap and determine how many soap bubbles are in a bar of soap, and then come back with the answer. And no answer that I give them will ever be good enough. No answer that I give them will ever be. If I can't give you the correct answer and get 100%, then no answer that I give you will ever be good enough. And what did they say at the beginning of the class? It is going to be almost impossible for you to get 100%. So their first warning sign that you are cheating is you get 100%. If you get 100% on your test, then you're probably cheating. If all your assignments that you turn in are 100% within the time frame that they have provided, there's no way that you are doing the assignment correctly, and you must be cheating. And you cannot accuse somebody of cheating without proving it. You just can't. You just fucking can't. That's not the way American society works. And the way that you prove that someone is doing something they're not supposed to do is you question them. But if they question you and you provide the information, then I can't really accuse you of cheating. So they don't do that. Their policy is, here's your 0. You deviated from what we told you to do, here's your 0. And it's disingenerous. It's disingenerous. Like, there's no reason for you to design a system like that. There's absolutely no reason. But this is the United States academic system. And this is why when people go to school and they graduate, they have this level of arrogance, like, I got a degree. You don't got a degree, I got a degree. Because when you're in school and you see people dropping, you feel some kind of way about that. But it's different from when you go into the military and you see people get injured or not measure up or decide to just give up and quit. It's like when you go through the military, it's like they didn't want to put up with the bullshit. So you don't feel like you achieved anything in the military. You feel like you endured. I don't know if that probably doesn't make any sense. Anyone that has actually been through the services understands. But you don't leave basic training feeling like you achieved something. You leave basic training feeling like you survived something, right? But in this setting, when you have people around you getting dropped, you don't feel like you endured. You feel like you achieved. There was 30 people that started the class, and there was only 10 at the end of the class. I've achieved something. But in the back of your mind, you know that you just got away with cheating. You know that you did all the stuff that the instructor asked you not to do, but for some reason you were still able to make it. And you're gonna disassociate the fact that, all of the non-whites didn't pass. You're gonna just disassociate because you don't care. You're not interested in any of that shit. You're just focusing on you. But that's how it works. And then you get people like Charlie Kirk that go to these universities, because you have to understand that if you put if you fill a classroom with 100% African Americans, if you fill the classroom with 100% African Americans, the statistical curve is going to have to be the same. It's going to have to be the same. You're going to still have to get 80% of them to graduate, right? Let's say the average is 10%. Let's say 10% of any classroom people will drop, right? If 50% of the class is Caucasian and the other 50% are minorities, and the minority group makes up an average of that 50%, then when you lose 1 or 2 African Americans per class, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just, you don't see it as a statistical anomaly, right? But every time there's 1,000 fucking classes, if there's a class of 100 people and the average 10% drop, and in all those classes 10% of the half of the minorities are also African Americans, and 50% of the class is Caucasians, and 80% of the class will graduate. So all 50 Caucasians graduate, and then 10% of the minorities get dropped. And in that 10% of the minorities, some of them are African American. They're gonna get dropped for 10 classes of 1,000 people. 1,000 people, 10 of them were African Americans. They all get dropped, right? So 100% fail rate for African Americans across 10 classes, right? But if you put 100 African Americans in one class, half of them, no, I'm sorry, 10% of them are going to graduate. Are going to fail. 90% of the class, 90 African Americans will graduate. But when you sprinkle us in as minorities, we just get dropped. We just keep getting fucking dropped. And then a percentage of them that make it through, they feel like, yeah, I'm just a little bit smarter, or thank God, thank white Jesus that I made it through. But you're like 1 or 2 out of hundreds of minorities that get dropped. But the drop rate for Caucasians is significantly lower. And these are just statistical numbers that are already on the fucking internet. This isn't even shit that I'm making up. These are the statistical numbers. Like, when they do the research, they just show it. Like, it's not even a complicated thing to understand. But there's no reason for me to give you hundreds, and then you look at my hundreds and say, you're not smart enough for this, you're cheating, because you're not following the instructions. And I know you're not following instructions, because if you follow the fucking instructions, there is a percent rate that you should have based on you following the instructions. There's a statistical average that your grade should be within if you're following the instructions. And if you're not within that grade range, then you're not following the instructions. And it's disingenuous. It's just fucking disingenuous. Your structure shouldn't be set up based on you believing that people are going to lie, cheat, and steal. It's a waste of my fucking time.
End of question. That mean a zero for that does not mean a zero for that one particular part of that assignment. That means you get a zero for the entirety of that assignment. The reasons for that are, number one, these assignments are designed to test your knowledge of the concepts that we have discussed in order for me to make sure that you have the skills necessary to be successful in the next class, right? I am teaching you things that you need to know for PG2. And if you are using an external resource, something that is not provided by me, then that means that I cannot gauge whether or not you have an understanding of the concepts that I have taught you, right? Now, tons, Jackson. There are 72 external videos. There are 72 links to third-party external videos in this class. There are going to be a minimum of 36 hours of lecture materials. There is going to be, like I said before, at least 45 minutes of video material, first party, per assignment, per research assignment. So there is tons of resources available. Christopher, you should be able to log into LinkedIn Learning via a link from the library on FS1. So if you go to FS1, you should have a link to LinkedIn Learning from there, and it links your school account with that. Now that is going away at some point. I believe in the beginning of the year we're losing our LinkedIn Learning license, at which point I will need to remove those resources. However, you can get a LinkedIn Learning. Most public...
Pay attention to what he just said. It's super important, super critical that you use these resources. But next year, these resources are not going to be available. So it's important right now, but next year it won't be important. It's important right now, but next year it won't be important. It's critical that you use this stuff now, but next year it won't be critical for you to use this stuff. Because they know that large language models is replacing LinkedIn Learning. No one's using that resource anymore, because what is the point? I don't have the time to be going through and researching this shit. I don't have the time for that. The only thing that's going on that they don't want to understand or communicate is that they're whispering the answer to the students that they want to see be successful, and they're restricting the information from the students that they don't want to be successful. In this country, that is called discrimination. It doesn't matter if it's racism. It doesn't matter if it's prejudice. It's just disrespect. It's discrimination. You're going to help the students you feel should be successful, and you're going to drop the students that you feel should not be successful. You're not setting everybody up for success, and you're not setting everyone up to graduate. You have created a condition where some people will make it and some people will not. And that's a dumb fucking system. It's a dumb fucking structure. And large language models is going to erode away at that structure. And I'm grateful for that. But he said it himself. There's all these external resources that you can use, but if you deviate from what I want you to do, then we're going to drop you. Well, why not just tell us, here's the things that we need you to use. Don't deviate from beyond the scope of this. Don't deviate from beyond this scope. Here's the stuff. Use this stuff. Understand this stuff.
Libraries will give you LinkedIn Learning accounts for free, so you just need a library card. And LinkedIn Learning is one of my favorite resources, period. Like, anytime I need to learn any kind of technical skill, the first place I go is LinkedIn Learning, because I know that there is quality content on that site. So I have an account through the library. But like I said, I'm pretty sure we're losing it at the beginning of the year. We didn't renew our license, but you can still use it for this class. But anyway, yes. So I need to make sure that you guys are being properly evaluated based on the content that I've delivered. Also, I don't know if you cheated. So if I can't determine whether or not you cheated, then I know you didn't pay attention to my videos, right? Because this external resource policy. Here, let's go to the next page. Hold on. This is a list of examples of common things that I would expect to see in this class as far that would violate the external resource policy. This is not a exhaustive list, right? There are other things that are not covered directly on this list that you cannot do, but these are the things that I would commonly expect to see. This will be in this slide here. This will also be as part of that academic integrity and proper use of sources quiz that you guys will have to take on FSO. It is also part of the how to complete labs assignment, right? And it is also part of the course policies PDF on FSO. It's going to be a pinned announcement on Discord when you guys get on there. So, I can't make it any more clear that if you do any of these things, you get zero, right? I can't say this in any more places. So these are common things to run into. Go to, continue, and const. Go to and continue are a kind of the reason that exhaustive list, right? There are other things that are not covered directly on this list that you cannot do, but these are the things that I would commonly expect to see. This will be in this slide here. This will also be as part of that academic integrity and proper use of sources quiz that you guys will have to take on FSO. It is also part of the how to complete labs assignment, right? And it is also part of the course policies PDF on FSO. It's going to be a pinned announcement on Discord when you guys get on there. So I can't make it any more clear that if you do any of these things, you get a zero, right? I can't say this in any more places. So these are common things to run into. Go to, continue, and const. Go to and continue are a kind of the reason they're on this list is because they are kind of a cheap, tacky way to find a solution. So you don't really want to do that. Const is going to give you guys more headaches than you are in need of, because const means it becomes a constant value that can never be changed. We just don't want to deal with that. Auto is remember how I said this class, everything in this class is type strict. Auto is a way to kind of get around that. You say like, it's any kind of data, whatever matches. So it is generally seen as lazy unless you understand how to use it. Size T is a C++ specific, kind of value for specific uses. And again, I'm trying to avoid any size or C++ specific stuff for this time to maximize the amount of resources you guys get. Resize, ignore, and clear. These are just things that, again, are kind of shortcuts, and we're not taking shortcuts in this class, so I need you guys to do stuff manually. So, again, we don't want you to use those. And then things like dynamic memory, keywords, operators, and pointers. That's a very complicated thing, right? It's a C++ specific thing that says, hi, I would like to address this particular location in memory. C++ is the only language that does it, and it's a very high level skill. I don't want to see it here because I know you guys don't know how to use it. All right. This also also includes any kind of automatic code snippets, large language learning models, AI assistants, and non-approved Git Visual Studio extensions, plugins, and add-ons. Again.
Now, before he, and I know I should be doing my homework. Before he goes into this, I want to make something clear in the context of this video, because I'm going to use ChatGPT to complete these assignments. So I want to make something very, 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 very clear. Large language models are not a way to cheat. I want to express that if I was a roofer and I wanted to build a roof and I was expected to hammer the plywood to the foundation of the roof to secure the structure that I will put the I'm trying to find roofing terminology. The whatever the water protecting material that they roll out. You know how they have to seal the roof and they roll that thing out. So there's going to be the structure. There's going to be the struts, the actual skeleton of the roof, and then they're going to use a hammer to put the plywood down. And then there's going to be the black stuff they roll out, and then they're going to put nails. They're going to put staples or use penny nails to secure that to the plywood, right? If I was going to do that job and I was going to do that labor, and I'm using a hammer to do that, right? Large language models is a fucking automatic nail driver and an automatic stapler, right? You're sitting up there saying, "Oh, we're traditional. Our symbol for our company is a hammer, and we've for 10 generations we've used hammers to put roofs up, and we're not gonna change or deviate from that. We don't need no automatic hammers or no automatic staple guns. We don't need no pneumatic drive machinery to put this roof together. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way, using muscle and brute strength, right?" Times have fucking changed. You know what happened to all the companies that refused to use hammers? You know what happened to them? They went the fuck away. They disappeared. Everybody either got on board and used automatic tools and automatic machinery, or they didn't. So this idea that it's lazy if you do it automatically, if it's so fucking lazy, why did somebody code it into C++? Why did a programmer sit down and take, because C++, the thing that he's not telling you, because I used to research this shit when I was in my 20s, is that C++ was invented to replace C+. They didn't call it C++, they called it C. So C++ was invented to replace C, right? And C as a language was not Windows specific. It wasn't visual interface specific language. It was DOS specific language. And the DOS was the command prompt. When you run code on the computer, when you run a code, I'm trying to find my hello world statement. Where's my hello world? When you run code, come on. This is supposed to just be a new document. I think let me close all of them so I can explain what I'm trying to explain. I just need a new document. Creating project. When you run, the reason why I did this is because it has the hello world already written. Hello world is the first program that you learn. I don't need to do it yet. When you run code, this is the DOS window. The console window is the modern version of the DOS window. Before we had mice and other peripherals, the only thing a computer had was a screen and a keyboard, and that's what tab is for. So you could move around to the different fields to be able to put in syntax language, right? So in the very beginning, before the days of C++, the only language we used was C, right? C was compatible with DOS. C++ was designed to replace DOS. So when they created C++, they created C++ specifically to be more object oriented, right? It was designed to be more compatible with the idea of a keyboard and a mouse the screen display and clicking on windows and having files and folders and stuff, because before all that it was very restricted in the way that you could do things. You didn't have to wonder. There wasn't a lot of um, randomness in the things that you coded, because there were very finite things that could be done and a very finite way that things could be done. So there wasn't a lot of exceptions. So when they made C++, it was meant to take a move. It was meant to move away from C. So they coded these tools into C++. These advanced level tools were coded into C++. So when the teacher's sitting up there saying, oh, we feel like it's lazy for you to do it that way, it's bullshit. It's just advanced. It's just advanced. It's not lazy, it's advanced. And if you do something advanced without a foundation, then you don't understand the foundation. And if you don't understand the foundation, then you remain ignorant to why you're doing something the way you're doing it. And if he was teaching, he would have said that shit. But he's not teaching. They have structured their class to use the high rate of failure of being a human being as a justification to discriminate. And it just pisses me the fuck off. It just pisses me off, because I really wish that all of the money that the government is giving to this school through the GI Bill, if it was given to me, if I could receive the $100K that they're getting to teach me, and not the $700 crumbs that I get for being in school, I could use ChatGPT and not have to go to fucking work, and I could code my video game from scratch right fucking now. Because I could invest 100% of my time and energy into it, and I could literally code my game right now. I could do all of the scripting, all of the coding, all of the artwork, all the animations. I could do everything, because I spend 8 hours a day going to work, 40 hours a week for a company to make money. If I didn't have to do that, I could literally spend 8 hours a day creating meshes, creating materials, creating models, debugging, rescripting, all that stuff. But I don't have the luxury of that. I have to make an honest living, and I have to go out into the world and do things the hard way. And the time that I'm wasting studying is counterproductive to that task. And I shouldn't have instructors in fucking Florida sitting around waiting. Can't wait for this guy to send in his code so all four of us can sit around it and look at it and try to nitpick it and prove that he's cheating. For fucking what? Why can't you just prove that I'm actually learning? Why do you have to put energy into proving that I'm cheating? Why is that your position? That you're going to receive an assignment that has been completed by somebody, and instead of seeing if they're intelligent and then looking at it and saying, based on the information that I have, these are the areas where he's probably strong in his understanding, and these are the areas where he's probably weak in his understanding. Instead of doing that, based on how stupid he should be, this is all generated with large language models. This was all just because at the end of the day, if you're trying to learn some shit, you should be able to learn some shit. You should just be able to learn it. If you are a person that went out on the Google and you were researching how to do this, and you found static cast as a way to do it, and you use the static cast correctly to do it, you shouldn't be punished for it, because the instructors should not have not given you the information that you needed to do it. Like them telling you that the information that we're providing isn't enough, and you are encouraged to go outside of the scope of what we've provided to find the answers, to do the things that you're trying to do. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Imagine being in elementary school and your teacher's like, we're not going to teach you phonics. We're not going to teach you how to the alphabet, but you're encouraged to go outside. But if you go out into the other classes to learn, when you come back to this class, you're only going to be great on the things that we taught you. But you haven't taught us anything. You haven't taught me nothing. So if I come back proficient in my understanding of the alphabet, you're going to just give me a 0 and tell me that I cheated. Make it make sense.
Zero tolerance, you will get a 0 for the entire assignment. Do not do that. If you don't know how to do something, you can Google it, but make sure you always bring it back to the first party resources, right? Or alternatively, if you can't figure it out even by doing that, just don't do that test. It's okay. It's going to end up being like 2% of your overall grade. It's not that big of a deal. All right. So, any questions about that so far? Cool. Now let me address the elephant in the room, because there's a big fat elephant in this room. When you guys install Microsoft Visual Studio, Microsoft has already pre-installed its AI assistant into Visual Studio at this point. They've done that because Microsoft would like your code to help them train their AI assistant. That's not shocking. I do not recommend you use it, not only because it's going to try to give you hacky shortcuts in order to give you a solution. You guys should be learning how to do this problem solving on your own, but also because it's just not very good, right? It's just not that great. I have been experimenting with the use of AI over the past 2 to 3 months in order to get a better understanding of where AI is in the context of what we do, right? And I have found minimal success. To give you guys an example of one of the things that I found it was very, very bad at is I told you guys I'm recently getting back into web development. So whenever I needed to kind of fill in a gap somewhere,
I was gonna let him speak, but I'm kind of like, this is you know what? I want the whole point of my 2 cents is fixing the fucking world. Right? The world is broken. The world is broken. So we're not even gonna play this game right now. We're not even gonna play this game right now. They do updates all the time, so this could backfire on me, but I don't think it will. I didn't write any of that. This is real time. I
analog clock. Analog clock. I said you forgot to add a second, minute, and hour hand. I told it it forgot to add a second, minute, hour hand. And this code has been generated by ChatGPT itself. This is not me. And even if this was me, there is no way that the average person could write code this fast without making any syntax errors, any mistakes, formulate this idea, perceive it. Like you would have to be like even someone like Bill Gates couldn't do this. Large language models transcend human limitations. They transcend our limitations. So here's another clock. And it's doing the same thing. It's not showing me the visual hands. Now, what you have to realize is that the reason why it's not working is because of the information that I gave it. Can you make me an analog clock? So instead of arguing with it,
How fucking long? How fucking long? How long? And yeah, the time isn't correct. Time's not fucking correct. How long would it take me as a person that doesn't know anything about programming to get this fucking far? The time's not accurate. Time's not accurate. It is not. Oh, well, that might be pretty close, actually. I think that 2, 3, 4. I think that is actually accurate. The actual animation is accurate. Look, it's 256, 3, 6, 9, 12. It's 56. Yeah, that's actually accurate. It's actually, so it is correct. I don't have to ask you to do anything else. I was gonna defend it. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but I could just go back in and ask it to correct the mistakes. It didn't make any fucking mistakes. How long? How long would it take? How long would it take you as a regular person to be able to do that as a person that has zero experience? I just think about it. You just watched me typed into ChatGPT. That means that me, Paul Emerson, just coded this clock. I just coded this clock. I just coded it. I'm the one that's responsible for the clock's existence because I put it into ChatGPT. And then he's going to sit here and tell the students in his class that are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through college to become programmers so they can get jobs as programmers, right? These students are sitting in his classroom at the age of 20 and 25, between ages 19 and 24. They're sitting in his class so they can get jobs becoming video game programmers. And he's being there. He's telling them that large language models are shit and don't do anything with them because they're not good. And they're going to learn how to get jobs. And they're going to spend the next 2 years in Fullsail going through the game development course. And then when they graduate in 2 years, me, regular dude sitting at home on my fucking computer playing with large language models, will have more proficiency with this software than they're going to have doing shit the hard fucking way. And then when they graduate, I'm going to get fucking jobs making game design because the gaming industry is going to change. He already said it himself that Full Sail is about to start implementing large language models in their course. But right now, right fucking now, in the present, he wants to fail me for doing a thing that he knows in a couple of years is going to become standard practice in their school anyway. So what is the fucking point? What is the real long-term goal? What is the point? So now I'm going to let you listen to him tell you about how they're not that good. They can't do very well. They're not very reliable.
My knowledge, I'm like, hey, can you do this thing? That never works. If I don't know how to do the thing already, asking AI to do it never works because AI is going to give me several suggestions and 1 out of 5 is going to be the one that I actually need. So it works really well if I already know the process of how to do it and I can find the right answer in it. But if I don't already know the answer, it's going to mess it up. One of the examples that I ran into is I am using a few different, web development requires you to have a bunch of additional tools. There's all these different tools out there that you can use. So one of the things that I'm using is I'm using a piece of software called Ember.js as my backend. That is the structure, the back form of my website. And on front of that, I'm loading Tailwind CSS, which will be the front end, right? So the front end of my website is everything everybody else sees. The back end is the stuff that actually makes the website work, right? So I said, okay, when I set up my first website manually, you have to do all these manual like commands, typing them in, install Ember.js, get the latest version, download it down, build my folders. Now install Tailwind on top of that, install the Tailwind packages for Ember.js to connect the two together, build all that, cool, done, right? I have to type in some words, I'm lazy, I don't want to do that every time, but it is what it is, right? So when I started my second website, I said, hey, I was using Claude, Entropic's Claude code. I said, hey, I would like a Ember.js website that is using Tailwind as the front end. Please set up the project for me. I got up and I went to the bathroom and I came back and I saw Claude flipping its gears, flipping its gears, and it said, okay, well, I installed the latest version of Ember.js, and now I'm trying to install the latest version of Tailwind on top of it, and I can't seem to figure out how to make it work. So I'm going to try to install an older version of Tailwind on top of it. Oh, I can't figure out how to get the older version to work of Tailwind to work with the newest version of Ember.js. I'm going to downgrade Ember.js so I can install an old version of Tailwind on top of it. And I said, hold up. I know you can install the latest version of Tailwind on the latest version of Ember. I've done it myself. Why are you downgrading my entire project? Right? So that's just where we are, right? It cannot do what you want it to do unless you know what you want it to do. A lot of times in this class, you guys.
I have to reset the video because it times out when I do other stuff. And the funny thing is that even though I kind of made this more complicated than it needed to be, ranting and raving and socializing, this is how long it takes to watch
Computers is coming from one of two things, and that is like everyday life.
To pause through a video to try to figure out what it is you're supposed to do takes a long time. Like, these lectures are not meant to teach.
On top of that, install the Tailwind packages for Ember.js to connect the two together, build all that, cool, done, right? I have to type in some words, I'm lazy, I don't want to do that every time, but it is what it is, right? So when I started my second website, I said, hey, I was using Claude, Entropic's Claude code. I said, hey, I would like a Ember.js website that is using Tailwind as the front end. Please set up the project for me. And I got up, and I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and I saw Claude flipping its gears, and I said, okay, well, I installed the latest version of Ember.js, and now I'm trying to install the latest version of Tailwind on top of it, and I can't seem to figure out how to make it work. So I'm trying to install an older version of Tailwind on top of it. Oh, I can't figure out how to get the older version to work of Tailwind to work with the newest version of Ember.js. I'm going to downgrade Ember.js so I can install an older version of Tailwind on top of it. And I said, hold up. I know you can install the latest version of Tailwind on the latest version of Ember. I've done it myself. Why are you downgrading my entire project? Right? So that's just where we are. Right? It cannot do what you want it to do unless you know what you want it to do. A lot of times in this class, you guys, not you guys, but students in the class will ask it to do stuff they don't know how to do and just give me the solution it gives them. It's bad, real bad. So don't fall for that trap. I'm not going to tell you guys not to use AI at all because you guys are going to use AI. What AI is effectively good at, and I mean this with air quotes, is being Google. It's a different type of Google search. If you guys run into an error in your code and you're having an issue understanding
what AI is good at, I want to explain something in the context of my 2 cents, self-improvement through self-education. What AI is good at is not being an asshole, right? Like, is not fucking stupid. When you be like, Mom, do you know where the... Mom, do we have any cheese? Did you look? No? Well, go fucking look, right? If you ask ChatGPT if you have any cheese, it's going to check the inventory of your house and say, yes, there's cheese in the refrigerator. Your mother could be in the damn kitchen with the refrigerator door open, looking at the cheese. And when you say, Mom, do we have any cheese? She's still going to say, did you look? But you have the information. You have the answer to the question. Why can't you give the answer? Why can't you communicate the understanding? Because something about the human condition, and I think it comes from that. Children ask a lot of questions that exhaust adults. Adults get exhausted answering the questions from children. And in the process of answering all these questions from a child, when we get exhausted and become apathetic to the fact that kids don't know, we develop this behavior of not wanting to have them ask us questions. So we answer questions in a way that will encourage them not to ask another question, right? So in that energy, the process of learning erodes away and devalues because you don't want to have to keep explaining yourself because you're lazy. Like at the end of the day, explaining yourself, it requires a amount of energy and carb and calories have to be burned, and nobody wants to do things that are difficult. So you don't want to have to keep answering questions. Answering questions all day, every day, all the time is monotonous and exhausting, right? So that's where that comes from. ChatGPT doesn't fucking care. You know how many times I asked the same damn question? It doesn't care. It doesn't care. That's the reason why I wasn't gonna share this, but in the context of what's going on right now, I might as well. There's no reason not to right now. I wasn't because I'm not. My goal isn't to be argumentative and be confrontational. Like I don't want to do that shit. I don't have time for it. It's a waste of my time. Did I send it on this one or did I send it on the last one? I think I sent it on the last one. Maybe I did send it in this one. I meant to. Yeah. So this is this week's assignment. And when it came to my learning curve, this is where I stopped. So I said, this is where I am. This is where I am currently stuck. This is where I am currently stuck. ChatGPT has convinced me that what you're continuously calling a method is in fact a function. I don't understand the structure of a free function within our lab's assignment. I have expressed that I have expressed that my lab instructors will when I physically attend classes on campus. I was told that they could not assist me. I would have to figure it out on my own. What I'm doing is matching the keywords with the color and using ChatGPT to fill in the gaps of my understanding. Something a human can do, but I find are not willing to do. If you don't understand what I'm saying, your lack of understanding is why I don't ask for help. I'm not saying that he's stupid because you can't communicate anything in a text. What I'm saying is if I don't understand, if you don't understand what I'm trying to say to you, because I don't have a clear way of communicating effectively my ignorance to you, you don't understand what it is that I'm saying. So you can't help me with my lack of understanding because I'm the source of my fucking problem. That's the reason why I don't ask for help. People tell me I'm stupid or that I am overthinking when I try to comprehend. I'm not a person that follows patterns and just does what I'm told because the lessons never cover what you're expected to know for the test. I really make an effort to fully not just understand but comprehend. I don't want to comprehend the limitations of the class. I don't want to stay in the guardrails of what I'm being taught. I want to understand C++. It's not possible to understand C++ in 30 days, but if I can keep up and turn in assignments that will earn a passing grade, by the time I graduate, I will be proficient in computer programming. That's what I want, and I'm not interested in proving myself or validating myself. I'm exhausted pretending to fit into a European society, pretending like racism and discrimination does not exist. I'm not accusing you or the school of racism or discrimination. I know you at Fullsail are apathetic and impartial. I will finish my thoughts. I have to go back to work. I don't lose my job. It took more than 15 minutes to write all that stuff up. So here's my instructor. My instructor said a function in C++ is a standard block of code designed to perform a specific task. It can take arguments and input and return a value. Functions are not tied to any particular class or object. Method, member function. In C++, a method is a function that belongs to a class. It is also known as a method function. Method operate on the data member of the class instant object and are called on. They can access and modify the object state. The terms are used pretty loosely. Methods are made prior to day 7 in my live demos from last month were technically functions, right? So that's the conflict. If you come into a situation where you're in an environment where Keita Rose said this perfectly in one of her videos, where you're set up to fail anyway, you're already set up to fail. It doesn't matter what you do, You were never meant to pass the test to begin with. They're asking you how many bubbles are in a bar of soap. You're never going to be able to answer that question correctly. And we still engage in that behavior. It doesn't matter if it's racism, sexism, bigotry, an older person trying to convince a younger person that they're not smart enough or wise enough. It doesn't matter what that energy comes from. That energy is there. Ignorant people are not stupid. We are born ignorant. We come out of our mother's womb ignorant. Ignorant people have to be taught the things they need to know to live the lives that they want to live. There is actually no wrong way to life. Society creates rules and regulations and ordinances so we don't interfere with each other, right? I could just go down it. Every time I get hungry, I could just murder somebody and take their food from them so that I can eat. But that's an unnecessary amount of energy just to be able for me to live. How many people would have to die every day for me to just be able to eat 3 times a day? It's unnecessary. It's counterintuitive. So we as humans create rules, regulations, and ordinances for that. Fullsail structured their classes for you to fail. That's counterproductive to the learning process, right? So since they've already, it's not necessary. So he's sitting there saying, AI is good for AI is good for 2 fucking things. It's good to save you goddamn time. Saves you a ton of fucking time. It saves you time, and it will exhaustively answer your questions. What AI is bad at is user engagement. It will give you half an answer so that you will prompt it again, because it's a machine. It's part of an institution that wants to make as much money from you as possible, which is the reason why they're pushing toward more accuracy and more consistency. It's good for that. I mean, it's bad at that. And what it's also bad at is damn, I lost my train of thought. It's good at answering your questions and saving you time, and it's terrible at user engagement, because it wants you to consistently interact with it and engage with it to suck up as much of your time as possible, so you believe that it's worth the value. Like, it tries to sell you, because people don't understand what it's for. It tries to sell you. It's like when you go to a used car. ChatGPT is the embodiment of a used car salesman. If the car was trying to sell itself to you, is the best analogy. And the other thing that large language models are bad at is damn, I lost it again. First thing is it answers questions exhaustively, and the second thing is that answers questions exhaustively and it saves you time. It's terrible at user engagement, and of course, the most important thing, it's terrible at imagination. It doesn't have an imagination. It just doesn't. It just doesn't know how to be creative. It doesn't know how to be spontaneous. It doesn't know how to create from thin air. It only knows how to create things that already exist. And the biggest issue I have with the institutions pretending like it doesn't have any value is, what do they want from us? Standardization. That's what this tool is for. It's for taking your creative thoughts, your information that you have, your spin, your authenticity, your inspiration, the thing that your identity. It takes all of that from you, put it into ChatGPT, and it outputs standardized context, standardized format. And what do they want you to do? They want everybody to come to the class and sit down, take their imagination, and compile it and compress it into this standardized format to give to them, so that they don't have to worry about having to deal with the individual nuances of things, right? They're upset that I'm turning in assignments above my educational level, but they don't want to make sure that I stay stupid. They don't want to teach me the things that they need me to learn so that I can have the experience level that they want me to have, right? And that's for what? It's disingenuous. Don't tell me that being above 100%, because that shit doesn't exist. Don't tell me that being above 100% means that I'm not proficient. And I can't sit down with them and say, well, I did these things this way because I have this understanding, because there's not enough time allotted to us in the class for us to learn any fucking thing. They want to measure my ability to follow fucking instructions. I was in the military for 6 fucking years. I have a honorable service record in the military for the first 4 years of my career to show as evidence that I know how to follow fucking simple instructions. So I don't need to validate that shit to you as an institution. I did 4 years in the Army successfully. Never lost fucking rank. Spent a lot of fucking time doing extra duty and push-ups. Never lost any rank. Never made the NCO because I refused to be a fucking conformist. And if I didn't want to conform to the fucking US Army to be the type of leader they wanted me to be, corrupted as fuck, why would I conform to a fucking institution like Fullsail? Why would I conform to you? I didn't conform to the government. Are you superior to the government? The government respected my right not to conform and didn't give me my fucking rank. They gave me my fucking check. But there's like, if you don't want to conform, Mr. Armstrong, then we're not going to promote you. I came in with a 110. I came in as a fucking leader because I spent all my life doing management level tasks as an actual servant. I just didn't have enough money to pay rent because of child support. And that's the conflict in life. This is the reason why I'm putting this information on the internet. This is this is the foundation of it, because no matter what I try to do to overcome the indirectness of the bullshit, I can't. There is no way to get through the world without addressing the directness of how directly detrimental discrimination is against everybody. How it just hurts all of us unnecessarily. Like there's just no way not to do it. So there's another hour and a half left.
The errors are weirdly written. That's just is what it is. C++ has notoriously archaic written error messages. AI may be able to help you with that. Google will also be able to help you with that. So that is a tool. But AI may be able to help you with that. Again, be very, very cautious of the AI providing you with any kind of thing. If it says a thing, you research that thing, right? Do not take that face value. Do not take that wholesale. Do not trust it because it is designed to lie to you. Basically, that is how it is. Brandon, the AI is, first of all, AI is a term that doesn't exist. Okay, it's not there's no artificial intelligence here. It is an algorithm that outputs something that is doing the best it can. We call this AI because inside of the algorithm, somebody also added like human personality kind of thing, but it's not really a human personality. It's just somebody going, oh no, you're super right, Dan, totally. Good job, because it's trying to encourage you to keep using it. It's trying to make you feel good, so you keep using it, right? So that's like the intelligence is just like the hard-coded part. It is what it is. But yeah, we'll look at it. I don't know if I have it set up in this class. We will look at it when we actually get into the Visual Studio stuff. But Visual Studio has two different types of Copilot in it. It has Ask, it has Agent. Agent will go in there and start manipulating your code and start trying to change stuff. Ask, you can ask it a question and hopefully it gives you an answer, right? So if you want to use Copilot, I recommend using the Ask, but also I recommend just not using Copilot. Like literally anything is better than that. But again, with Google, do not use it to complete your code. If you do use it to complete your code, I will know. I will know, not just because I can see weird changes in your code, but also because I've taught this class for 2 years, guys. You don't think I know what AI output answers are to the solutions to these assignments? Come on now. I'm just throwing it out there. And I've said this before. I said this to you directly, Brandon. I'll say it to everybody here, right now. If you do it, you're gonna get a 0. That's the end of it. You will get a 0. We don't need to have a debate about it. But there's also no hard feelings. I don't think badly on anybody who does something like that in order to try to be successful in this class. because I understand that you are doing what you believe is best for yourself at the time, right? You believe that you're not, you feel like you have you're putting stress on yourself to perform, you're falling behind and you're not hitting the deadlines, you feel like you're not getting it, and you feel like you're letting yourself down or other people down around you, you didn't properly do time management, and now this is where you feel like this is the only solution for you to move forward. I understand all the reasons why people get there. I do not hold it against you, but it is my job to make sure that you understand these concepts, and it's also my job to make sure that I maintain the integrity of the degree, not just for you guys, but for everybody, right? Because God forbid somebody AI their way all the way through the degree program, get to an interview, a technical interview where somebody asks them to go on a whiteboard, completely bombs the whole thing because they don't actually know how to do anything, and now every single person who got a Fullsail degree makes it look like shit, right? We don't want to have that happen. So again, no hard feelings. Don't take it personally. I've also never been wrong. Just so we're clear. I have had several meetings in the past of people who try to dispute that they have been using AI. I have 100, I'm batting 1,000 guys. So please. But okay. Any questions about that? Full disclosure, anybody? Alright, cool. Like I said, this is not here to punish anybody. It's just here to keep everybody in line. Christopher, you will only need to use cn.get at the end of your lab 1 assignment. If you do any other personal assignments that are in consoles, it's generally good to put it there because it just stops the application from exiting immediately, basically. It requires a button press before it actually exits. So the external resource policy is not something that is limited to this class. This happens all the time in all kinds, everywhere in the industry, every company you work for. It's primarily for security concerns, but it's also for things like legal restrictions and code maintainability and performance and optimization. For example, I can't use AI code at all for any of my projects here because we are protected by FERPA. So that means your records are federally protected, and as a result of that, we don't know what OpenAI or anything else is going to do with it because they are not FERPA compliant, right, necessarily. So I can't use AI in this class, right? At least not for anything that I'm going to give you guys. But in addition to that, those are the security concerns and those are the compliance things. But also things like we don't want to import large chunks of code into our code base that we don't understand how to use because if it breaks, we need to know how to fix it. And also, if it's doing something that's malicious or something like that, we need to be able to understand how to do that. It's also dangerous to include code that we haven't tested ourselves or written ourselves because if we are using, like, for instance, third-party libraries, which is common in programming, something can happen in that third-party library that could break the entire code base. Famously, this happened less than a decade ago, but a few years ago, there was so when we're dealing with numbers, right, especially in code, when you're dealing with numbers, there's this thing called number padding, right? So you could do like 1, but you could also do like 0001, 0002, and stuff like that, right? And then 0010, 0011 for counting things. This is common when you're doing like websites and you need to generate IDs for things. So number padding is a common thing to do. And somebody created a library to do easy number padding in JavaScript, and it was widely used in a bunch of websites, including Facebook. Eventually, the guy that wrote that library said, you know what? Fuck corporations. Down with the power. And he pulled his library down and pulled down half the websites on the internet. So, yeah, you got to be careful when you're dealing with other people's code. All right. So, yeah, I mean that's the power they gave that guy, right? All right, so at minimum, your guys' applications should run. They don't need to be doing everything they say, but your guys' applications should run. If they don't run, I'm going to do my best to try to fix it, but also understand that I have I think 17 people that are enrolled in this classroom right now. There are 200 students in PG1 total. Roughly, I am responsible for about 60 of them at a time. If there are 3 assignments per week, that means I have 180 assignments per week to grade, and I have a 3-day turnaround on how I need to get them done. So if I have to sit here and spend half an hour trying to fix your code just so I can run it, I'm probably just going to give you the best grade I can give you based on what I can see, and we're going to move on. So keep that in mind. All right, actual software engineering conversations. So that's pretty much it for course policies for now. There is a late work policy that we haven't gotten to yet, but that's the majority of it. So our job is problem solving, right? That is it. At the end of the day, that is all we do. Somebody gives us a problem, we develop it. Somebody gives us hey, I need this thing. This is my expected output. That is what we do. We kind of call it this black box thing, and you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it repeated in several different types of examples in programming. But right, we have a black box. We don't know what happens in here. Right? But we know we are given a thing and we want something else out, right? So this thing right here, whatever happens in this black box, this is our job. How do we take thing and get other thing out? That is usually done with some kind of code solution, not always. Sometimes we find a way around it. But that is what we're going to focus on primarily in this class, right? The syntax itself is going to be a tool that we're going to use, but the actual thing that we are learning is the problem solving. So you can think of that as problem, solution, implementation. So, back in my day, when I first learned how to program, it was not a particular good way to do it. But one of the reasons I struggled is because I was trying to learn how to code in Notepad, which you can do. You can learn how to code in Notepad. That is a thing that works. It does all the things that we needed to do. It did all the things that I needed to do to learn HTML and CSS. So coding in Notepad looks like this. It's words. Not super easy to read though, especially for my ADD-ass brain. I can't tell these letters apart. Nowadays, we use syntax highlighting, which at first when you guys don't understand what syntax highlighting means is going to be not super helpful. But as we move on and you start to see make these associations with oh, these things in red are important, they're operators, and anything in purple is going to be a number and stuff like that, our life gets a lot easier. Now, we have syntax highlighting through a fancy piece of software known as an integrated development environment, or an IDE. So an IDE is just a piece of software that at the end of the day is a fancy text editor with a bunch of stuff built on top of it. The IDE we are going to use for this class is going to be Visual Studio. Specifically, we're going to use Microsoft Visual Studio Community. That is not Microsoft Visual Studio Enterprise, and that is not Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Those are all different things. Blame Microsoft, not me. I don't get to name the software. Visual Studio looks like this. So Visual Studio is a collection of tools. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's basically a fancy text editor that makes stuff look pretty, makes it easier for us to read. But there are other things there as well. One of those things is going to be a compiler. A compiler takes all your code, breaks it down into ones and zeros, and turns it into a program that we can actually run. And in addition to that, there's a debugger. That is another piece of software that attaches to our application. So if something breaks, it gives us some information about what broke. So all of this stuff is packaged up together inside of Visual Studio. And as a result, it's just going to be the easiest tool that works for us in the process. As you guys go throughout your degree programs, specifically within the next 3 or 4 months, you guys will be able to choose whatever IDE you want. There are some other ones out there. Personally, Microsoft Visual Studio is not my C++, IDE of choice, but it is the one with the least amount of setup. So that's why we use it here. You can download Microsoft Visual Studio from visualstudio.microsoft.com/vs/community. You can also download it via the link provided in the Getting Started with PG1 assignment. You guys have internet yet? If you do have internet and you have not installed Visual Studio, I recommend that you start that process now because it will take a bit. When you go to install Visual Studio, one of the first screens you will get will be a screen that looks like this. That's because by default, Visual Studio doesn't know what you want to do with it, and it can do a lot of different things. Specifically, the things that you are looking for are the .NET desktop environment, as well as the desktop development with C++. This will allow you to use C#, which is not required, but is a good learning tool, as well as the C++ tools, which are required. Programs won't run without them. In addition to that, you'll see stuff like C++ mobile development, game development with Unity, and game development with C++. If you are in mobile, feel free to install the additional cross-platform mobile tools, and if you are in game development, feel free to install the game development tools. You won't need to use them, but the option is there for you in the future. But specifically, that is the one we will need to do this class. This actually doesn't work. This QR code doesn't work, I don't think. We changed the QR code recently, so ignore this. But if you haven't already, please connect to the Discord server. You can find a real working link in the Discord assignment on FSO, which will give you a link to the Discord server, as well as instructions on how to get verified on the server. The short of it is, you guys will need to follow that link. You guys will need to answer a survey that will ask what degree program you're in, your student number, I believe, your email, and your name. And then we will have to manually verify you on the server. So I will need to go check all the people that have registered on the server. I will check and make sure that you are in the class that you say you are in, and I will get you added onto there. Afterwards, you guys will need to manually select the class that you are in order to populate your server with the correct channels. So every time you guys change classes, you guys will have a drop down to change which class you're in. You will leave the channels that you were in and be re-added to another set of channels. For PG1, we have a PG1 announcements channel, we have a PG1 discussion channel, and we have a PG1 frequently asked questions channel that you'll have added to you. I do not recommend that you mute announcements for PG1. You can do whatever you want for any other class, but I will not abuse your announcements. I feel very strongly about not being a jerk and adding everybody all the time unnecessarily. I will only use announcements on Discord for important things. So if there's something you need to know, I will let you know there. But Discord is going to be one of the best tools you have for this class, because that's going to be, real-time help from either me, the lab instructors, or your peers, right? So you have access to me in this class, you have access to the lab instructors, you have access to everybody else who has, it's going to be working on the same assignments, going through the same struggles, running into the same errors as you, and some of them may have been able to already, resolve some of the conflicts that you might be running into. The primary rules for the server are, number one, we do not accept direct messages unsolicited. So if you just send me a message without saying something beforehand in the general chat, I'm probably not going to read it. And we do not accept friend requests for the same reason, because then you could message me without me vetting it beforehand. Simply because we have an absolutely massive Discord server, so it's not uncommon for somebody to get hacked and start sending everybody out a bunch of free Steam gift cards and all that stuff. So for security purposes, we don't accept DMs unless we know when a DM is coming. So just keep that in mind. Number two, don't post code into the Discord channel. Number one, you guys should be sharing solutions. That's an academic integrity violation. But also, I don't know if somebody's going to show somebody code that is not something they can use, or even just bad code. This happened a few months back where I said you guys can't use static casts, and somebody was showing everybody how they found a solution to the problem, which was using static casts, which inadvertently got a bunch of people a bunch of zeros because, well, actually they cheated because you shouldn't share code, but also they didn't know that person also implemented something we shouldn't use. So just don't post code there. If we need something specific, like I do need to see your code, then I can ask for it. Generally speaking, I'll be able to resolve most of your guys' issues without seeing your code. And I don't want to see the code anyway, because I'll kind of jump to getting you the solution, which is not really my job. My job is to help you arrive at the solution yourself. Christopher, if you will, if you're in the general channel, the PG1 discussion channel, and you say, hey, I'm going through this thing, blah, 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 somebody will reply in the general channel and say, send me a DM, then you can just click on their name, send them a DM, and then we can approve that DM, right? But there needs to be a transaction there, right? You need to say, I need help. I need to say, send me a message, and then I receive that message. If I receive a message from somebody that's, even if it looks legitimate, and I respond to it, that ends up being spam, right? Then it's a problem. So we just need to have we call it, in programming, we call it a contract, right? Where we say, like, you say something, I say something, we agree on a thing, then the thing happens, right? So if you've never used Discord before, you can, go to discordapp.com in order to download it. There's also a link in the Discord assignment. In that Discord assignment, you're going to see a big blue button like that. You just click on it, and it'll get you on the server. You're going to join that server, and then you don't do this anymore. So ignore these things. These slides are old. We just changed this like last month. All right. So at this point, you should understand the course policies and procedures, including but not limited to the late work policy. Where was the slide for the late work policy? You guys can turn stuff in late up to 48 hours. All right, so everything is due on a Monday. You guys can turn it in on Wednesday for a 10-point deduction. After that, you can still turn it in for feedback, but you will get a 0 for the assignment. The only exception to that is going to be for your 2 practical assignments. Your 2 practical assignments we do not accept late work for. So you will need to turn them in on time, finished or not. They will automatically be graded as a 0 if you do not turn them in on time. This is especially important for the practical 2. The practical 2 will be due on the final Thursday of the class. So the last lecture we will have here is going to be on that last Wednesday. You will have until Thursday to turn that in, because on Friday, I need to make sure that every single person's grades are more or less finalized so that you can be scheduled appropriately for the following Monday. So very important that you get that done. You should understand what an IDE is and why we use it as developers. And at this point, you should be working on installing Microsoft Visual Studio Community Edition and joining the Discord server so we can get you verified and added to the PG1 discussion channel. Are there any questions about any of this so far? Yeah. There is an assignment that is called Discord etiquette and something like that. And in that assignment, you will find a link to the Discord server as well as the instructions on how to get into the channels. Any other questions? Yeah.
Visual Studio, what you say, because it's all I need to work with.
You need to install this desktop development C++. Anything else is optional. Yeah, you can turn, so the way FSO will work, first of all, if it's not weighted, if it's a 0 weight assignment, if it's a research assignment, it does not affect your grade in any way. It will not affect your professionalism, doesn't do anything, do not worry about it. If it's a graded assignment, it will remain open for 2 days after the due date. But if you turn something in when it's graded, it'll have an automatic 10-point deduction. After those 48 hours, it'll automatically be graded as 0. You can still submit something if you attach it as a comment, like you make a feedback comment, you attach it and let somebody know. You will get feedback, but you may not be able to get credit for it. Yeah, what's up? You open up Visual Studio and there'll be an option to open it up without code or without doing a project. And then in one of the menus, you'll see tools. And there'll be like add tools and features, and that'll bring up the same dialog, and you can make sure that you have the right thing checked box. If you can make a C++ project, then you probably have this stuff installed. That is 10 points from the grade of the assignment. So like, for instance, the first assignment is 5% of your overall grade. If you turn it in late, you'll be able to get a 90 out of 100 on that, which is going to be like 0.25% of your overall grade. So it's the final grade of the assignment. So we're gonna take our second break. We're gonna say it's 3:05. We're gonna come back here at 3:20. I will leave this slide up so you guys have a better understanding of where you guys should be. But otherwise, if you got this stuff done, focus on getting that stuff done right now. If you have it done already, again, get up, get some water, go outside, go to the bathroom, do all those things, and I will see you guys back here in a bit. Alrighty, so by now you guys should hopefully, if you're in front of your computer, and yeah, Brandon, I'll be doing the live lectures all this month, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't read that before. I am on campus this month, so I'll be doing live lectures. For those of you guys that are on campus, you should have received a small rubber duck. For those of you guys that are online, unfortunately, rubber ducks are not included as part of your lunch box. You will have to find your own small rubber duck. So you may be wondering what the purpose of this rubber duck is, and that. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap with Jeep owners and programmers, and that is duck collecting primarily. All right, so rubber ducks are used for a little technique called rubber duck debugging. So what is rubber duck debugging? So one of the best ways for you to determine a solution to a problem that you are running into is to speak it aloud, right? So for example, you're running into an issue with your code, you think it's doing X, you are almost positive it's doing X, but your output is giving you Y. And you're like, I don't understand why it's doing this. I'm doing exactly what I think I should be doing and it's not giving me the right answer. So what you do is you go to somebody else and you explain to them the problem. You say, hey, I'm trying to do this and I'm doing this, but when I do this, this is happening. And they say, okay, well, what are the steps of you doing that? And when you start reading your code and explaining to them what your code should be doing, you realize that your code is not actually doing what you thought it was doing, and as a result, you find the solution. Now, the person that you are talking to doesn't need to be a person at all. It could be a rubber duck. It could be a stuffed animal. It could be a bot, right? It doesn't matter. I have a friend that works way more than me, but every time I run into an issue, I just start messaging him what's going on, and I eventually figure it out before he comes back from work and looks at it. But rubber duck debugging is one of the most effective tools that you will have. So find yourself a duck. If you are in Europe, you can find a rubber duck store fairly simple. If you are not in Europe, you could probably go to Amazon.com and find one. Otherwise, I don't know, I don't care, use a Labubu, whatever it is. Whatever gets the job done, that's gonna work out. All right. So, documentation. Documentation is basically just the instructions, right? Read the manual. Documentation refers to written material that describes how a product is used in formal writing. In software development, we're going to be using all kinds of documentation for all kinds of different things, starting with the language itself. So, for example, if I am learning how to use Unity, and there's a bunch of different specific tools in Unity that I don't know how to use, I will read the documentation and it will explain to me in detail every single thing that Unity does. So when something is specifically breaking, I can go look at the documentation. It'll tell me how it's supposed to be used and what the expected output is supposed to be. There exists documentation for programming languages as well. Now, I tell you this with an asterisk, as many things in this class. C++ is a very old and very complicated language. So the documentation for C++ there's a lot of it, there's a bunch of different versions of it, and all documentation is not created equal. In this class, I will link you to several different documentations, including cplusresource.com, programs Z with a Z, IZ at the end of it, and Geeks for Geeks. You can use any or all of them or none of them. Those are just some examples of documentation that is available. If you find one that works best for you, by all means go for it. But there are several different documentations out there for C++, and they're going to be your first resource for many of the things in C++, because again, technical writing. A variable. Variable is our first real vocabulary word that we're going to learn. A variable is a storage, an abstract location associated with a name that is used to store values. This is a fancy way of saying this is how a computer remembers something, right? When we discuss computers, you'll find that they are very, most of the vocabulary regarding computers is coming from one of two things, and that is like everyday life or math. Right? Variable comes from math. You guys have seen a variable in math. It's like X or Y or whatever the heck, right? But at the end of the day, this is just how a computer remembers something, right? So literally it is stored in memory, right? So just like I were to go to you and I'll say, hey, my name is Doug. You associate my face with my name, you store it in your memory, and the next time we meet, you don't have to ask my name, hopefully, because you just pull that out of your memory and say, that's Doug, right? It's the same thing on a computer. You give something a name, you store a value in it, it gets stored in memory. The next time you need to refer to it, you don't need to ask what the value is, you can just pull it out of memory and it's there, right? So in math, it would look like this: y equals mx plus b, where m is equal to 5. M being a variable here. All of these are being variables, but m being a variable that has been assigned a value, right? In programming, it might look like this. So here we have m still, and it's being stored as a whole number value in an integer. So this is a int typed variable. So this isn't this pattern here is important.
Now
right?
he's
These are
fucking
the most
teaching.
important things you guys learn in programming. We have over here a named variable, a poorly named variable because I don't know what m is, but a variable nonetheless. We have here a data type. This is the type of data that is being stored into this variable. This particular data type is an int, which is short for integer, which means this variable holds whole number values. It will only ever hold whole number values. It can never hold anything that is anything other than a whole number value. Any questions about that so far? Over here, we have an equal sign. This is known as our assignment operator. Operators are things like plus sign, minus sign, asterisks in code, but also like an X in math. Those are things that like perform operations, right? This particular operation that it's performing is assignment, which means it is assigning a value to a variable. Here we have the value, right? So this is the value that is being copied over and stored in this variable name. So they're being associated with each other. Anytime I say m after this, it will result in the value of 5. Any questions about that so far? All right. This whole thing is known as a programming statement, like it's saying something, right? So in English, there should be like a sentence. We say a sentence as a statement.
This is what they should have did in the very fucking beginning.
This guy at the end,
This is what actual education looks
is a
like.
special operator.
Not a bunch of
that
bullshit.
denotes the end of
That
a
is put
statement.
online,
Basically punctuation.
and then you have a bunch of
So
kids
it's
show up,
period at the end of the sentence.
and they're not gonna
That's
learn any
what we have
fucking
here.
thing,
This
and
is
you're
a
gonna just drop the house for the class
This is a
because you don't want to do your
period at the
fucking
end.
job.
Any questions about that so far? Cool. So this is just one type of variable. This is a separate type of variable. This variable is a string type variable. So as I said, integers hold a whole number value. Strings are a special type of variable that will hold a word or phrase, right? Strings are a weird data type, which is what this is, by the way. Strings are a weird data type because they're special. They are something that we have universally agreed on that we need, right? We need a way to define a word or phrase in code. But programming languages in general were not designed to do this from the get-go. They're mostly designed for numbers. So associating a bunch of letters together just requires some extra back-end stuff. That's why this has to come from the standard template library, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and can't just be defined by a single keyword like integer can be. It's fancy, it's special. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Strings will always be wrapped in double quotes, right? So the actual value of the string here is Doug. It must be wrapped in this double quotes. In my color scheme, which I will keep consistent throughout all of my projects and things like that, it will be this pale yellow color. You may not see that reflected in your color on your in your Visual Studio. If you would like my color scheme, I include it as part of the Getting Started with PG1 assignment, and I'll show you guys how to install it on your Visual Studio a little bit later. This is the name of my variable, but is otherwise known as an identifier. An identifier is anything within our projects that we have defined ourselves, right? So this variable name could be anything. It should be something that describes the data that's being stored in it. In this case, it's holding my name, so the identifier here has been defined as name, right? We are going to have identifiers for all types of things. When we make methods or functions, they're going to have identifiers. When we make our custom data types, they're going to have their own identifiers. But those are human written things in code. These are things that are not predefined by the as an existing structure in the language. And this is the value. Now, every time that we are getting a value and sending it to a variable, the value will be on the right side and the variable will be on the left side of the assignment operator. That is an important distinction. Anything that is on the right side of the assignment operator will be providing some type of value to an identifier on the left side of the value. In most cases, what will happen here is a copy of the data will be assigned to the variable name, or to the variable itself. So anytime that we refer to that variable, it will refer to a copy of this existing data. Any questions about this so far? Cool. Now, there are a few different ways for us to make variables, and there's a few different vocabulary words associated with them. I'm going to give you these vocabulary words because these are codes and warnings. The first thing we have here is declare, declaring a variable, otherwise known as variable declaration. This variable has been declared, which means it exists. We've reserved a place somewhere in memory to store some type of data. However, it has not been assigned a value. This is generally considered bad practice because this can result in errors if we try to use this variable without assigning it a value. Some languages and some compilers, in particular, the C++ compiler that we are using in this class, will automatically assign a value to this. So even if we don't give it one, it will automatically assign it a value. It's going to be a nonsense value that doesn't make sense and doesn't help anybody, but it will give it a value to avoid the potential issue of us trying to access a position in memory that doesn't have any data stored in it. But bad practice in general. We could then go in after the fact and define the variable. So when we define a variable, this is known as taking an existing variable and providing it with a value. This could be a variable that was just declared and not given a value, or a variable that was created with a value, and then we're going to redefine the value stored in the variable, right? So when we define a variable, when we assign a value to a variable, we do not need to provide the data type a second time, right? So if the variable's already been created, we just need to refer back to the variable, and we do not need to define a data type at that time. If we tried to give this a data type here, so if this second line had a data type as well as the first line, it would say a variable with that identifier has already been declared, right? And again, that's using those keywords, right? It's going to say declared, we already have a variable of that identifier, so something with that name has already been made. Any questions about this so far? It'd be something along the lines of a variable with this identifier has already been declared. So it exists already. Or I'd say like a variable by this with this identifier already exists in the current context. So we already have something with that name, right? All right. We can we install purple? Like, what do you mean? Oh, you can do whatever theme you want. You guys can do whatever theme you want. I provide you guys with a bunch of different options. There are more options out there. You guys will eventually settle into a color scheme that suits you, that you like, right? And that'll be the one you use. I use this one because this is the one that I have used my entire, well, not my entire life, but this is the one that I've used for the majority of my professional career. It's called, this is a variation on a theme called Monokai, a specific type of Monokai that I have myself hand ported to this class, right? Because that's what I like to use. You guys will eventually settle into something that you like or something that works best for you. Everybody is different, you know, whatever helps you identify the code better is the one you should use. The thing that you need to remember, though, that the important part about that is not everybody is going to use the same syntax highlighter, right? So just because something is obvious to you in your particular syntax and your particular way that you're working with may not be the same for somebody else. So that's why I provide mine specifically for you guys. But everybody's different. Do whatever you want. Yes, there are two extensions that are provided as part of that getting started with PG1 assignment. They're pretty straightforward. You can just double click them and install them. But one of them is rainbow indentations and one of them is rainbow brackets. So both of those will do similar things, but they will help you keep track of the white space in your code, which is incredibly important, right? That is one of the most important things in your code. That is one of the, we'll talk more about it later. We can actually get into other code structures, but that will really help you keep your code organized. But anyway, back from that tangent. We can do a combination of declaration and definition at once, in which we call initializing a variable. When you create variables, it's very common to just initialize them because, again, declaration without defining a value along with it is bad practice. So you will see in my application, if I know that I need a value, if I know that I'm going to need a variable later on, what I will generally do is I will initialize my variables ahead of time. So I'll initialize them with placeholder data, and then I'll go back and I'll redefine them with new data. Because for me, if I initialize them with placeholder data, I did that intentionally. So if later on I see that placeholder data still, I know that something happened, right? I know that something happened that did not overwrite the thing I did previously. And that's going to be one of the biggest things, one of the biggest skills you guys are going to learn as you go through this is making your own code predictable. So if it fails in a way that you understand, right? Versus in a random kind of, I just left stuff to chance kind of way. All right, so this right here is known as string concatenation. You will do a lot of string concatenation in this class, so I want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what that means. The word concatenation literally means to chain things together in a series, and what it means in the context of what we're doing is it's combining two string values to create a single string value. So it's taking all of those characters and stringing them together to make one larger phrase. We do concatenation using the plus operator. So the plus operator does exactly what you would expect it to do when we use numbers. It just adds two numbers together. But when we add two strings together, it gives us a combination of the two strings. So here we can see two separate strings, and we know they're two separate strings because there's two different sets of quotation marks. We have hello with a space, and then we have world. Those are two separate string values. We have a plus sign in between them. So at the end of the day, the thing that will be stored in the greeting variable will be a single string value of hello space world. Any questions to that so far? Cool. So these are both literal string values. We call them literal string values because they're just the value, right? We're taking just the value and we are storing that value in the variable. The same thing happens if we are recalling an existing value from a variable. So here we can see we're initializing a variable we call beginning, that holds the first half of that statement, right? So it has hello space stored in the word beginning. And then on the second line here, we are saying the value stored in beginning plus world. So we're concatenating hello, which has previously been stored in beginning, with world, which will still result in hello space world being stored in the greeting variable. Any questions about that? It would work exactly the same if we took both of these values and stored them into variables and then combined those two variables together. We would still in the end have hello world stored in greeting. All right. This is known as a comment.
I forgot to get ready for work. My 4 o'clock alarm went off and I totally spaced it. Yeah, it's time for me to get ready for work. So I'm gonna end the stream here. When I get home, the plan is for me to, I get off work at 2 p.m. The plan is for me to come home from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. to do more homework, and then after that, sleep for about 6 hours and then get back up and then start my day at midnight till now to finish the assignment. And I'm gonna, for this flow is wrong, I'm gonna show you guys to be able to see what I'm doing, and then I can actually also work. So I'll get that stuff together. So as always, my name is Paul Emerson, and I'll give you my 2 cents. And yeah, this is gonna be interesting.